welcome to the Geeks of the North, a hobby and gaming podcast from the Bell Province. This week I'm here with Antoine and Yom. We're talking about our recent gaming and hobby experiences. And then we have an interview with Brandon Palmer from Adepticon fame. So sit back, relax, grab a paintbrush, and enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeks of the North. As always, I'm your host Paul Filio, here with my co-host Antoine Bergeron. Hey Antoine.
Hi Paul, how are you doing?
Good, as always. And this week we are once again joined by the illustrious, the beautiful, the magnificent Yom Lemeshin.
This is me, yeah. Hello guys.
Hey Yom, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Hey, it's weird to be here without Steve. I'm always here with Steve.
Yeah,
So
it's your first time alone.
Yeah, I kind of feel naked. Steve, where are you?
Be
buddy?
afraid, Yom. Be afraid.
Hey,
It's okay. We'll be gentle.
okay, good.
Not like you were with Paul last week.
Wow. Wow. No foreshadowing there. Hold on. Okay, so this episode's gonna be a little different than our normal format, guys. We're gonna have a beginning. The opening is gonna be the three of us talking, doing the hobby section and the games we played and all that other fun stuff. Question of the week in the news, and then the last half of the show is actually going to be an interview I did just after Adepticon with Brandon Palmer, and we're going to discuss him a bit before we go into that interview to kind of give you a lead up into who Brandon is and what he does. I think you're going to enjoy it because he's a pretty interesting guy, and he takes commission painting to a whole new level. So on that note, I guess we'll just dive right into hobby time.
So, what did you do this week, Paul? In the last 3 weeks, in fact.
Has it really been 3 weeks since we recorded?
Yes.
Shivas.
Really?
Okay.
Or every 2 weeks is starting to be every 3 weeks.
Yeah, I know. I'm bad. I
It's
blame
not
myself.
Just you. We're all with the babies and work and travel and conventions. It's normal.
Excuses.
Yeah. Yeah, we're a week, Antoine, let's face it. So yeah, I've actually had a fairly productive couple weeks, considering I was away for Reapercon during part of that period.
And a full week for work also.
For a full week for work as well, yeah. Texas is not the most exciting place I've ever been to. Just gotta throw that out there. Oh, except my taxi cab driver does assure me that there's some fantastic strip clubs in Dallas. And if ever I wanted to go to him, he would be more than happy to take me there and accompany me. Which was a kind of creepy conversation.
Yeah, awkward.
Yeah, like, I don't want to go to a strip club. He's like, yeah, but you should. I'm like, I'm from Montreal. I don't need to go to Texas for strip clubs. But anyway, so yeah, while at Reapercon, I did a lot of painting, because that's really what Reapercon's about. And I worked on a model I'd had for years. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with a company called High Tech Miniatures.
Yep.
So they make a lot of 40K Countaz models. They have a whole line of like Adeptus Mechanicus wannabe stuff and a bunch of Chaos and Space Marines. And what sets their Space Marines apart is they're designed as angels, essentially wearing the equivalent of Terminator armor. They're all big resin pieces. They're pretty nice. I mean, they're not as nice as some of the stuff we see out of Forge World by today's standards, but 3-4 years ago,
or even Cyborg. Or on par with Cyborg, maybe?
Yeah, I'd say it's like more or less on
Yeah,
par with
yeah,
most of
they kinda
Cyborg
look like them.
stuff. I think Cyborg was kind of the pioneer in this, and then High Tech kind of copied a lot of that. Kind of the way that Puppets War also copied them. Anyway, yeah, so I worked on a model called the Archangel Michael, which is a big Terminator kind of standing up on a rock with these giant wings coming off his back, and he's got a storm shield, or whatever, a shield and a sword. And this was the model I had with me. I hadn't really planned to paint much at Reapercon because I figured I'd be too busy talking and hanging out. But I did spend a couple days just sitting around with James Wapple. And so I was working on this guy and just kind of watching James and trying to understand how to do non-metallic metal. So I worked a lot of my NMM gold on him. And I thought he came out pretty well, actually. And so did a couple other painters I was talking to there. So I worked on him. He's probably about 75-80% complete.
Okay.
I'll finish him up sometime in the near future. Aside from that, I painted a Dreamforge Leviathan. For those that don't remember, the Leviathan was a Kickstarter model from about a year ago. They're basically the size, a little bit smaller than a Forge World Warhound Titan. And a lot of people were using these guys as Count as Titans. Originally, they were all resin kits sold by Dreamforge Miniatures. Or Dreamforge Games, I can't remember. And they were about, I think they were about $400 in resin. So he did a Kickstarter to make them out of plastic. And it was hugely successful. So they went down about, I want to say they're $90 US. And I think like they're on sale for like $60 US right now. It's crazy cheap, and they are super cool, super posable, almost action figure like
Yeah,
models.
it's true. You showed me that all the all the
The
parts
articulation
moves
is
yeah.
yeah, it's pretty impressive. It almost makes me think of like a Bandai model for like a Gundam or something, like in the posability. And he has a whole line of miniatures aside from just the Leviathans that he launched. He's got a whole line of really cool models. So yeah, I picked up a Leviathan, 2 Leviathans during the Kickstarter with all their accessories and all the different arms, and I was using them as a Count as Warhound Titan, allied with my Grey Knight army for a game I played against you. We'll talk about it a bit later.
It's cool
So
because it kind of looked like a giant granite.
yeah, that's exactly why I picked them up, because I'm like, I'll tie them in with my Grey Knights, and then I can use my Grey Knights as allied forces. And what's cool is one of the weapons you can outfit him with is a giant. It's called Excalibur. It was an optional thing, so it's like basically a giant rune sword, force sword thing, which makes him really look like a Grey Knight. Sadly, Warhound Titans can't have close combat weapons, so it doesn't really work. But yeah. Thematically, it looks cool.
Could you use them as proxy knights, or they're too big?
I think you could get away with using them as proxy knights.
Or are they what middle size between a knight and a titan and a warhound?
They're the same size as the old armor cast warhounds, so maybe an inch shorter than a Warhound Titan, but like 2 inches taller than an Imperial Knight type thing.
Easily to more than that, even.
Yeah. So they're a bit big for an Imperial Knight. They're a little small for a Titan, but not much.
Have you seen any of the Forge World Knight? They seem taller than the plastic ones.
They are. So actually, about as tall as the tall Forge World Knights. But the Forge World Knights are almost Eldar looking, right? They're tall and skinny. Yeah. So they're like the more agile versions of the Knights. So the less heavy weapon loadout, I think. They're more defensive. One of them has like a big force field projector thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You completely derailed me with that. But yeah, so it's about the size of the bigger Forge World Knights. I think that's a pretty good comparison.
Yes, I agree.
And speaking of Knights, I finished assembling the last 2 for my game with Yom. So I had all the bodies and stuff assembled. I just hadn't gotten around to assembling the arms, so I did all that on the weekend last week. And then last night I actually primed 2 of them and started painting them in Adeptus Mechanicus colors to be allied knights for my army. And yeah, that's it for my hobby.
Good.
You want one?
Yeah, on my side, I finished the Relic Knight Sword Sworn I was working on a couple of weeks ago, I think, or a month ago maybe. It was only a color test for the faction, and I'm pretty happy with how it came out. I continued working on Lilith, the Reckoning of Everblight, Lilith 3, the big on the chariot, or the sleigh, in fact. She's not done yet, but I'm getting there. The sleigh is done. The base is done with I talked last time about how I did the frozen lake base with all the ice cracking, and I also wrote a tutorial about that. So if people are interested, you can go on my blog and see that, the Zonion.net. And it's a pretty good piece with a bunch of pictures of each step, so it might be interesting. Apart from that, I finished painting the buildings for MC Studio, the cardboard buildings for his upcoming Kickstarter, which should be live, I think, May 28th. I'll need to check and add that in the show notes. And outside of that, that's all I did painting wise, but I did go crazy in assembly because I didn't have big chunks of time, but I could easily get in little 15-20 minutes here and there. So I cleaned my resistance choppers, and I also cleaned and assembled two demo team for Pulp City, so 6 supreme level for each team. So that's about 4 model in each team. So I'm only missing the bases because I'm not sure on what type of base I'll use for them. And that's it.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What kind of base do you need?
I'm not sure what kind of team I want to go for the base. So.
But is it like 25 mil flat?
Oh no, there are 30
or...
round lip, 30, 40, and 50 millimeter round lips.
Okay.
I'm just not sure. It's a superhero game that should most of the time be fought in a town. I was probably going for resin bases, but most of the resin bases for or your urban are all for
sci-fi,
either factories or junkyards or really messed up parts. No, there's no regular town bases. Almost, or it's all old Victorian era with bricks and everything.
Okay.
So
I think Secret Weapon actually has regular city streets because I'm pretty sure I'm using a bunch of those.
Yeah, but
maybe not the style you want. But
yeah, it didn't end up looking good. I looked at maybe 10 manufacturers and none came out like I wanted. So I still have my mold from Happy Seppuku, so I might end up just doing custom bases for myself.
DIY. Okay.
Yeah. I'm happy with my asphalt I did on my Pacer for Reignite. So I'll probably use the same technique and add the accessories from the Happy Seppuku press molds.
Okay. Yeah, it's sewers, like covers and stuff like that. Yes.
Yeah, and stuff like that.
Okay. Cool. Oh, you're done?
Yeah, I was done before you asked your question.
That's right. Keep up, yo. Keep up. So on my side for hobby, I finished Zuriel, the character Heavy War Beast for Legion of Everblight. I think I mentioned it in episode 14. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you did.
Okay, well, I confirm that I did. So it's really done, and I give it back, and the client's super happy. I also.
Oh, he didn't ask you to redo? Sorry.
I finished the a small lizardman commission. It was a Bastiladon monster and a Saurus hero on Cold One. So I finished that just recently. I'm gonna post pictures soon, I presume. It was a kind of basic tabletop commission. So you send me models as a template for the color scheme. So I just pimped that out. So okay, that's done and done. I painted a war machine, a warcaster for my Signar because there was a painting challenge going on in one of the consortium Wargamers consortium Facebook group. So I figured, if there's a challenge going on, I cannot resist painting challenge, online painting challenge. So why not? It's been a while since I painted a Signar model. So I finished him. It was a weird project in a way that it's been a while since I painted Warcasters for my Signar or anything for my Signar. So I kind of evolved since then, but like I wanted to use the new techniques that I've learned in the past few months, years, whatever.
Oh, that's dangerous because then stuff won't match.
Exactly. So I had to like tone it down trying to find like a middle ground so it looks like it's part of the army, but I can do better than back then. So I tried to find a mix between the two, and the mix I think is a success. It looks good, but doesn't look too different from the other models. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it, and it's gives yeah, I don't know. I kind of like. Wham, comment je pourrais dire? Redo. um, what's cool about that is now I have a new orchestra to play with, so I cannot wait for my next game and build up a new list for him and try to figure out if I because he on paper his rules are very interesting and different from what I used to do. Also, I did a redo of an old paint job. Well, no, it's a recent paint job. The OSL job on the X-Wing miniatures thrusters. So basically, the client wants to receive the model, had a change of heart, and wanted an higher level, like the next level paint job. So he sent me the model back, and I redid the paint job. But basically, it all comes back to the same motto, you know. You get what you pay for. So in a way that it will always depend on the number of hours I can spend on the project, the quality level. So if you want me to spend more hours, you just select an higher level paint job and you'll get the result you want. So it's basic. That's what's come back, you know. And finally, I started a new small but still cool secret project. So
Dun, dun, dun.
da-da-da. Because in this group, we kind of like secret projects, apparently. We're all keeping our little secrets. Uh,
I don't have any secrets. I have zero
find
secret
one.
projects.
Find one.
Well, unless you count unless you count my joke painting studio that I've been talking about the last couple weeks.
It's a good joke.
Maybe we'll discuss it later on in the show because it was kind of funny.
Yes. All right, I'm done, by the way. I'm good.
Oh, okay.
That
So
was
I guess
me.
we'll go to my games. And games has kind of morphed into games slash other stuff I've been doing that's hobby related, but wasn't games because I had no time to play. Um, so first and foremost, I went to Reapercon, and Reapercon is very different than any other gaming con I've been to. In one big way, it's not a gaming con. This totally blew my mind when I went there. It is really, I mean, there's gaming going on. Don't get me wrong, but it's such a secondary consideration because it's really a painting event. You've got a little vendor hall, and it's mostly painting companies. And there was one guy there. Was that the Hangar 18 booth? And they had this huge collection. You would have loved it, Yom, of basing materials, like weird plants and stuff, like paper plants and paper flowers, stuff imported from Japan. Like it was just crazy awesome. James Wapple walked away with like a car full. Everyone was rating this place for it, and they had things like the painting backdrops. They had Grex was in their booth. They had shark mounted lasers was there with some laser cut stuff. Um, they also had the scale 75 stuff, um, models from what is the name of that company? People that did the Primark models, the not Primark models.
There are so many companies
Yeah.
that do them.
Not
No,
Cyber?
no, not Cyborg.
Cromlech?
No, not Cromlech. Cromlech mostly does accessories. No, these people do a lot of like mostly nude models, and they do the
Eureka?
Primarks. Kabuki miniatures.
Kabuki, yeah. That's true.
Um, so a lot of cool stuff in that booth. They had a custom dice guy there that had dice for literally, if you want an $800 die 20, you could have bought it there. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff. Reaper, of course, had a booth there. But the main part of the hall was just a giant painting room. And we're talking 8-foot round tables. And like, I don't know, probably 15 tables, 20 tables. Just people sitting there and painting. And along one wall of the room was a big long banquet table with painting artists sitting there, like an artist every 5 feet type thing. So artists like Jennifer Haley, Marika, uh, James Wapple, Mr. Justin.
Paul Fillion.
No, Aaron Lovejoy was there. Uh, so all these super well-known people, and it was really awesome. Because you could just walk up to them, and the whole point was when they weren't teaching a class, they were to be sitting there and available to answer questions.
That's cool.
So you could take your model and go and sit down in front of Jen Haley and be like, "Hey Jen, what would you do? How would you do this? What's your thoughts on this?" Oh, Jessica Rich was there too. I can't believe I forgot Jessica Rich and Rhonda. I mean, the whole reason I went there was because they invited me. Uh, so yeah, it was really really neat to get to interact with them that way. And of course, they had a bunch of sculptors there, so I got to spend some time talking to Bob Rodolphe. I took one of his classes. Super cool guy. And it was just interesting to get all this insight and different points of view on the industry and on modeling and see some of the stuff. And what was neat was because I went there kind of on the invitation of Jessica and Rhonda, I kind of ended up with the painting group, like the painters, the artists. Like we went out one night for, I think we were trying to go for milkshakes, but the Steak and Shake was closed, so we ended up going for dessert at the bar next door. And I went to dinner with them a bunch of times, and so people actually at one point started wondering who I was. Like maybe he's some famous internet painter we don't know, which was hilarious.
Exactly,
So
you were on Painter's Row and in the in crowd.
exactly. At one point, I was sitting behind Painters, were like next to James Wapple, and in someone else's seat who wasn't there, and people thought it was maybe him. I'm like, no, it's not me. I'm not this guy. I'm just a schlep here. And at one point, this girl walks up to me, and I'm sitting there, and James had eventually moved out of Painters Row and into like the crowd, because he likes to give tutorials 24/7, right? So that's his thing. So I was sitting with James talking, and there was a kind of a crowd. Mr. Justin was there, and a bunch of other people. And this girl walks up to me and shows me her model, and she says, "What do you think about this? How would you highlight it?" And I'm kind of a funny painter because I can't necessarily apply everything I know, but I know a lot. So I can look at a model and I can tell you, okay, well this is what you did wrong, and this is what you have to work on, and this was really cool. And the way you did this was great. Um, just don't ask me to do it. So I give her all this advice, and I'm like, but by the way, I'm not a professional painter. You really want to talk to one of these people, but I think they'll agree that this is what you need to work on. So she kind of looked at me funny and giggled, and then went and saw someone else, right? But it was just a funny. The look on her face was priceless. But it was an awesome experience, and they have a painting competition there. I was going to compare it to Crystal Brush, but it's nothing like Crystal Brush. It's an open format. It's very casual. It's very much there to encourage people to paint and to support people who are working on their hobby.
And it's open to more than just Reaper, right?
Oh yes, absolutely. It's any models, right? Anything you want to do, and it's some very very cool stuff. The Reaper, the people who do enter Reaper models have a chance at winning. Kind of like the equivalent of their golden demons called the Sophie. And you can only win a Sophie with a Reaper model. But you can still get gold, silvers, and bronzes for everything else. And then the neatest thing I thought was, so you put out your 5 models. The judges pick the model they think is the best overall. They judge that model, and then they give you commentary. You don't just go, oh, I want a bronze. You go, oh, I want a bronze, and these are the reasons they graded me this way. And they said that if I would have done this a little bit better, I would have been a silver. So it gives you some
amazing
definitive goals, right? They give you goals they set a goal for you so that you can improve.
Did they take the time to do that? Because there's a lot of entries in that
there
competition.
I think there was over 500 entries. And keep in mind, it's a 600-person convention. It's a tiny con. But it was an amazing experience, and I think if I can only go to one con next year, it'll be TempleCon. But if I can go to 2 cons, Reapercon will be... No, I'm just kidding. If seriously though, if I have to pick one con next year, it'll probably be Reapercon.
Even if you're not that much of a painter.
It's
What?
it was such.
And I'm not speaking quality. I'm speaking you paint with us and everything, but you're not into competitive painting and stuff like that.
No, not at all.
Hmm.
But I enjoyed the experience and I enjoyed the people. Little side story. I lost my luggage on the way. There was a screw up where someone else took my bag, and when I got there, Rhonda had seen my story on Facebook, so she took me to the organizer of the con. Is like, yeah, could you have someone that can take him to Walmart or something to get some clothes and some toiletries or whatever? And they found someone. They're like, yeah, no problem. We're gonna go to dinner, and then we're gonna take you to Walmart. We're gonna get you hooked up. It was fantastic.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So no, fantastic event all around. Super cool atmosphere. Loved every second of it. Can't wait to go back.
Only heard great things about it, and you totally sold me on it. If I can next year, I'll go too. It sounds like Painter's Paradise.
It is totally a painter's convention. If you like the hobby, if that's why you do this, this is the show for you. So it was really cool. Aside from that, I've been reading a lot of my 40K backlog. So I have a huge collection of codexes and supplements, and I keep adding to that collection, but I hadn't been reading because I hadn't been playing 40K. And lately, the 40K bug has bit me, I think, because Fantasy's on hiatus until they figure out if the world's coming back or not. uh, um, and because I had a game, Apocalypse game coming up with Yom. You know, we do a once a year, we do a small little Apocalypse game so that we can refresh our memories on why we don't play 40K. And no, seriously, it's a lot of fun because we don't take it seriously.
Exactly.
I think anyone who takes that game seriously is doing it wrong.
Yeah.
No offense to all you people out there that do that. You know, if that's your thing, that's great. But I don't think that's what GW intends anymore.
They never did, and it's getting more and more in that direction.
Well, I think at one point
during fifth, when they had Alessio, they tried a bit to go towards something streamlined and
well, no,
almost balanced, but that's about it.
It's been streamlined. No, I think. Well, we'll get a discussion another time, but I would argue that they tried streamlining when they first launched third. From second.
But
and then they streamlined it too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
Because third was barely a game.
They went too far with third.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been, because of the renewed interest in 40K, and the fact that I've always loved the models, I've been reading the books, and I had the Astra Militarum Codex I hadn't read, the Tempestus Scions Codex I hadn't read, I had the Grey Knights Codex I hadn't read, Craftworld Eldar I hadn't read, my Skitarii Codex I hadn't read. So I had a lot of material to start skimming through and looking into, and all in preparation for the Apocalypse game with Yom. And interestingly enough, that was the only game I played since last episode. So last weekend, and I won't go into the details because Yom's got it all written out all nicely in the show notes.
We'll talk about it together anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll have to interject and retell certain parts that you embellish in favor of your orcs.
Because orcs are the best.
Yeah, well, they certainly were on Sunday anyway. But yeah, so we played a 16,000 point game, 8,000 points aside. I would just like to point out that my side was about 95% painted, and Yom's wasn't.
Yeah, you had 3 unpainted models, and I had 3 painted models.
Yeah. Well, I really think it's because they're orcs, right? And they were trying to be sneaky.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they just figured if they painted themselves black, like Primer, then I would not be able to stop them because I wouldn't see them coming.
Black Army.
I'm pretty sure that was the... Well, that was the other thing I did for hobby-wise. I had to finish my gaming table, so we had a table to play on. So, like, the night before the game, I was painting table sections.
Came out great, too.
Yeah, for a super cheap and easy gaming table, can't be beat. Like,
yeah.
Probably counting the paints and stuff, maybe a $40 investment for a 4x8 gaming table. With some little terrain feature things. Maybe I'll do a tutorial on that at some point. And that was it for my my gaming. Antoine, how about you?
With the baby and the work and everything, and weekends outside with the family, gaming has been on the low side for a while. It's getting better. The baby's getting to bed earlier, so I'll probably be back to gaming soon. In the meantime, I've been playing more Hearthstone. Hearthstone, not too sure how to pronounce it.
Hearthstone. You did
Hearthstone.
okay.
Okay. Yeah. I only play it in my commute to not use the small hobby time I have, but it's still it's fun.
It's a well put together game.
Yeah, really well, and it's fun to play it on the iPad because there, compared to other card games, there's a bunch of stuff that you would need to keep track of. That's all done by the computer, so it makes it easier. A bit like that's a comment I've played Ascension, a deck building game on my phone too, and that's a game that's supposed to be better played on the phone than in person because there are so many fiddly things that you need to keep track of, and I think Hearthstone is about the same. Apart from that, that's not gaming, but I've been reading the Drop Zone Commander books, and also the Pulp City one. I've been assembling stuff for those two games, so I need to get the rules in to be able to try it as soon as it's painted.
Well, on a side note, Chris and I are supposed to have a game of Drop Zone Commander next week.
Oh, that's good.
In one evening, on maybe a Wednesday night. So if you want, you could drop by next week and sit in. We'll play a game and.
Yeah, I might try to get that in my schedule.
I might show up too. I'm curious about that game.
It's a lot of fun. I really like it. It plays a lot like 40K, so the basic mechanics are similar. So the learning curve's not super steep. Like 40K though, there are a lot of special rules. Each unit has a bunch of special rules, and they're all acronyms, so you have to kind of memorize what they all are. But once you kind of know what the acronym is, most of the rules are straightforward. And it's really a dynamic game, and things happen quickly. And you can go from I'm winning this game to I'm completely hosed in no time flat if you're not careful. It's like, yeah, I've got all the objectives. This is so in the bag. Oh, they've blown up my dropships, and now my infantry have to walk off the table. The game is 6 turns long. That'll take me 12 turns to do.
Yeah, infantry moves what, 2 inches?
Yeah, exactly. It's not pretty. Or they collapse the building on your infantry, killing them and burying the objective. Like, okay.
Yeah, the rules are simple, but I've gone through the 2 books, the first books and the Resistance extension, and I'm still not seeing how it plays on the table because it seems so different in play style compared to 40K. Well, the rules are similar, but I think they don't play anything similar.
Well, no, they don't. And then one of the things
it's gonna be fun to.
The biggest difference, of course, being the alternating activations, right?
Yeah, also.
And you activate not by squad.
You activate by battle groups.
By battle groups. So a battle group could have several different dropships that aren't anywhere near each other on the table, but they're all part of the same battle group.
Okay.
That must be a pain to track, though.
That's what I was about to say. That's the only problem I have with the game is it's hard to track stuff like that. And the thing is, you may have part of your battle group maybe a walking guy. So, like, I regularly have just a couple walking heavy, because I play the
PHR,
the Post-Human Republic, and I have a couple walking heavy mechs I take that I don't necessarily put in dropship because their weapon has infinite range.
Can you not put them in dropship?
Yep, you can totally walk them on.
Okay, I was under the impression that anything that could have a transport had to have a transport.
No, you can field it on the table.
Okay.
Or at least the army builder lets me do it and doesn't tell me it's a validation problem.
Yeah, that might not be might be the software problem.
The army builder is built by them.
Yeah, but still.
So, but I don't think.
Have you ever tried? Oh, sorry. Go.
I was gonna say, if you take a transport, you have to fill it with stuff.
Mhm.
So you can't take a transport
Empty. Yeah.
empty. So there's that. And I think you may have to take, when you build a battle group, you may have to have a certain amount of guys in dropships. But I think you can also take support heavy units without the dropship. I think it depends on where they are in the
In
in the battle group.
the
The
chart. Yeah.
Yeah, the type of battle group it is. Um, but yeah, so I'll take a Hyperion or two usually. They're just standing there by themselves because they have infinite range. So I'll deploy them in a place where they have line of sight that kind of limit people from walking in front of them. Because no one really wants to get hit with a Hyperion laser.
And that infinite range is something that's an exception in the game. That's something
Yeah.
else I like. It's a sci-fi game, but the range are pretty short because of all the countermeasures you can use.
Exactly. So
So,
infantry don't get the benefit of countermeasures, and neither do buildings. So you
but
can do
they'll
buildings
be
from
in
all the way
transport
across the
most
board.
of the time. Yeah.
But every vehicle in the game has countermeasures. So usually you're looking at a 24 to, I'd say, 36-inch range.
And that's max. Most
And
of
and and
most
that's
of the one
that's
I've
good
seen
range,
are
36
at
inch.
max
Okay.
at 24. So
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's an interesting game. I really like the mechanics. I wish it was a bit more affordable so it would do better here.
yeah, the pricing is not friendly.
Well, I think part of the problem is it's priced in British pounds, and then by the time they get it here
Yeah,
and do the exchange rate,
and the
it's
shipping
just
is
not good.
probably pretty costly too, and it
And
impacts
the
the
thing is,
price here. And
there's no supplier in Canada,
yeah,
so
Okay. So I
they
guess
go
it
to the
goes.
state. So there's two.
It's UK to the States,
Yeah,
States to Canada. So there's exchange rate twice, and then shipping twice built in. Like it's just yeah.
so I guess the community is small in Montreal.
yeah.
Okay.
It's small. It's
Yeah.
small.
What thing that helps is since last year they have released plastic starters for the four main factions. Only
Yeah.
the resistance don't have a plastic starter now, and the plastic starter are half the price of the old resin ones. So it's a
Yeah,
really good value.
there's $60 instead of basically 100. So it's a pretty big difference. And off the top of my head, I can think of 5 or 6 people that play it, not counting myself, at Gamers Vault alone. So I think there's enough of a community that you can find people to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I know other people at Labis too. So there's a pretty
Yeah.
at least a dozen of players local.
Yeah.
No, that's enough.
So
That's enough.
yeah, it's not so bad. It's not like there's just 3 of us.
Like relics,
Like relics.
Yeah.
where you don't even really count, Paul.
Yeah, exactly. I own the stuff. I think it's cool, but yeah.
One day, one day.
Well, you never know, because I'm trying to work out a deal with Antoine.
We'll see. I'll be happy to do that. So, apart from those two books, I've also read the beta rules for Home Raider, which we'll talk later in the news section. And I'm probably going to try the beta next week too, with somebody local who's getting into that project also.
Okay. Is it Benoit?
No. Somebody else from Repentigny.
Okay.
So I'll talk about the game itself when we go in the news.
Okay.
And that's it for my almost game-related stuff.
Okay. Me, as for games, I had two. First, since I finished the Zuriel model, I give it back to the client. It would, with my friend Matt. And normally that's when we get a game. When he gives me model, when I give them back. So that's when we get game. And that's why he's my main opponent because I don't get to play much of that game. And yeah, so we had that game that I have 50 points, Warmer Horde game. I was playing Signar, I was playing Legion, I was playing this time Striker 2, and I've been using like Nemo 3 for a year. And all of our last games, I was using Nemo 3. But he he changes his list a lot. So this time he had Veil 1, and we played, for those who know, who knows, is it? We played the incursion scenario, which is the three flags. And games against Matt are always tough, but this time maybe because of Striker 2, which is a lot more aggressive than Nemo 3, but I completely wiped him out, and that never ever happened. And
Oh,
I
I
think
sense a theme.
we were both stunned. I think that it happened. And even Antonio, Benoit Berube,
Yeah.
so which is a really good player. He was just there because he had a game with Matt previously and whatever, and so he was just looking at our game and talking to us. And at the end, he was just looking at me funny and he asked, do you play often? Because you somehow beat Matt. Yeah. So that was our first game. Still enjoyable, like all the games. The only difference that I dominated the game, which is weird. And then, yeah, uh, we had the Yomes annual Apocalypse game. Uh, because I can't get over 40K. It's the same thing as other friends. Even if we moved up to other games and we are, how we can call that, polygamers, that we play like many games. 40K is like my old game, my first love. So I cannot get over it. And once a year for my birthday, I call an apocalypse game. Um, Before we formally used a funnier name for that because my birthday is around Easter, and Easter in French is Pâques, so we called it the Apocalypse. So a little
Oh, jeez.
play on words. So for the second year in a row, this was a 8,000 points list on both sides, a one against Paul here. So my orcs against his alliance of Imperial forces. You had Ultramarines, Grenite, and some Adeptus Titanicus and Knights and stuff. So,
Yeah, I have a huge collection of 40K stuff, so I try to play something different. I mean, my core is always my Ultramarines because I love them. And last year I played 8,000 points at just Ultramarines.
yeah.
But this year I decided I want to do something different. So yeah, I threw the Grey Knights in and the Knights and my Warhound Titan.
Yeah, last year you had one Warhound and one Knight,
Yep.
right? This
Hmm.
year you have two Warhounds and three Knights.
Yep.
That's a lot scarier.
But I had like 50 less Terminators. So.
Yeah. You still had like 40 of them?
No, I
Yeah,
had
yeah, you had
I had about
30,
I had about 30. I had 30.
30 Ultramarines. Then you had 10 Paladins, Grenade
Oh yeah,
Paladins.
okay. I forgot about the Grey Knights. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had 40 Terminators. Yeah.
So we both had like hard lists, like elite forces. Because my
Well,
orcs, I don't play the huge green tide. I have my main infantry is nubs and mega nubs. So I don't have
yeah.
a lot of boys and stuff like that.
I did have like 50 tactical Marines too, like just random gimps that you ate alive.
Well, I ignored them most of the game because they were not as scary as the other stuff. Just like you ignored my boys. I had some that you just ignored.
No, no, I kept bombing them every turn. They just refused to die. Remember I hit them with the orbital bombardment and they somehow didn't care. And then I bombarded them with the whirlwind every turn and they didn't care. And I hit them with D weapons and they didn't care. Because remember
Y-
everything kept drifting because of
Yeah,
that
yeah.
stupid
Oh man,
rule.
that was
So,
crazy. Yeah, like all your scatter rolls. Man,
well,
you could
yeah, but
barely roll a hit. It was always like scatter 11 inches. Woo!
yeah, and the thing was, so in Apocalypse, there's environmental things like tables that you can roll on to randomly generate environmental effects. So there was was it psychic conjunction thing going on,
Yeah,
which basically meant we rolled the table and we kept getting the same effect, and that was re-roll all ones for everything. So anytime you rolled a one,
we
you
had
had to
to
re-roll
reroll
that
it.
die. So you scatter. Okay, I
I
scattered. Oh, I scattered 3 inches. Oh no, reroll that one. Oh, okay. I scattered 8 inches.
exactly. Yeah, it had a huge impact on the game. And the worst is there's three different effects on that table, and that table is optional, but we chose that table for the other two effects that were kind of funny, I thought. Like the
Well,
first one is all the units are a Brotherhood of Psychers with the Smite power, and the third one is Vortex that just wanders around on the table and eats infantry. Boop, bloop, bloop, bloop. But that's what we kind of wanted when we discussed, but we kept rolling for the reroll ones. So all game we rerolled ones, and it had a huge impact.
yeah, it was just crazy. I really think that those rules, while silly and fun, in theory, just make a random game way too random.
Yeah.
Like, we might as well not even be playing 40K. We might as well just be doing rock paper scissors every time we attack each other. Just
No, no, that table is now out. I think that never more, never again. Because I want to play again, of course. That game, it was fun, but that thing, that psychic storm, whatever, and out.
yeah,
You're out.
yeah. There will be another game. I'm gonna send out an email next week scheduling the Apocalypse for my 40th birthday. So we'll get something going, and hopefully you'll be able to attend. I know it's not easy with the family and everything, but
Oh, I'll do my best, my all the possible to be there for sure. Because now I have the 40 bug too. I want to play again. Same thing as you. I spent like the week before just reading the rules, reading my
well,
codex. Like,
I would
how do
have
we
read the
play that
rules,
again?
but they went away in my luggage that got lost. So
Yeah, that's something you didn't mention in your hobby. You started priming, base coating everything in your orgs,
Oh,
didn't you?
yeah, yeah. After the game, I was tired of the Black Army jokes. So
well, it wasn't so much a joke, is that half the time I couldn't tell what unit was what because it was just a big black blob on the
yeah,
table. And it was fine. I didn't blame you for it. I mean,
no.
8,000 points of work's a lot of models.
And like I
Like,
knew the
I get it.
models, I was up close, I could tell, but from your side of the table, like everything is black.
And I haven't played an orc player since like third edition. So I don't know
Uh,
what anything is anymore, right? So like I have no idea. I'm looking at a big blob of black guys. They're orcs. I'm sure they'll hurt if they get to me, so I better kill them. My
so I don't know
my
what
standard
are
rule.
they nubs or commandos? Or, yeah. So the day after the game, it was a bright sunny day. We had a day off, so I got the models outside and I just like with the army painters spray cans, I just like put a base coat of like different shades of yellows. So now the plan is to work with washes and glazes to to create the models. So it will be, I guess,
There's
a
there's a name for
year-long
that.
project that will I will do in between other commissions. So the objective is to have a painted army next year. A
Yeah, James
bad
Walpole calls
moon.
that shaded base coat, by the way.
Really? Okay.
That's
But
essentially what shaded base coat is for him. It's I mean it's he's not using spray cans and stuff to do it, but it's you apply a bunch of basic tones and then you glaze to tint to add shadow and
yeah.
to
Okay.
change the tones. So at the core, what you're doing is shaded base coat.
All right. There's a name for that. Cool.
Yeah,
So anyway, there was a thanks for the game, Paul, because I really wanted that. Like I said, cannot get over 40K, and it was kind of my birthday gift, asking for Apocalypse. I have one every year, so I had a lot of fun. You set up the table at your house, set up all the terrain. You even cooked for me, and we had cake.
yeah, yeah.
So I felt really like welcome. It was a great day, and I had fun. So I think we could go over the highlights, some of the highlights of the game.
Sure, yeah, there was a few funny moments.
Yeah.
Like Calgar getting his ass whooped by Gazgul.
Yeah, well, last year we tried to get them into a duel, but like didn't work because I blew up your transport too far away, and then I was onto the I disembarked on the table too far away from you, and we were just walking toward each other, and the game ended before we got to fight. So this time we fixed that. So on the, I think it was second turn, yeah.
Yeah,
So second turn, Gazgul charged Calgar, and because on the first turn you charged my own unit on Nubs, did some stuff, and then I countercharged with Gazgul in his own unit, so that was epic. Like the duel between the two War Masters, because they were both War Masters. Gazgul, of course, since it was my turn and I knew I was charging, I called the WAG, so I was like I had 2+ invul, but since we rerolled ones, it made him
yeah,
pretty much unkillable. So it lasted 2 rounds of close combat, and on the second round, it was your turn, and you called your finest hour. So it's first, I could picture the big epic duel of Gazgul with his wog power, and you on your
yeah.
finest hour.
Except I don't even think I did any wounds to Gazgul.
No, you didn't. Well, with the rerolled ones, no, it was almost impossible to wound him. I mean, you did wound him, but I saved everything.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, you had on your side like a 4+ invul and then a 3+ invul because of finest hour. Finest hour was cool. I mean, you got more attacks and a better save, and it was the right moment to call it, and
I
it was
I
a
I
epic
so
duel between the two, and
I stand by my statement that I should have taken Kaldor Drago as as my master, as my war master,
was he
because
on the
then
table?
no, I
No.
didn't take him in the end. But
Okay.
if I would have had him with his sword and his psychic power. He's strength 9. His weapon skill is the same, and he has a storm shield, so he has a 3+ invulnerable. And during his finest hour, it goes down to a 2+ invulnerable. So I could have 2+'d you the same way you were 2+ing me.
He goes to a 2+?
Well, because he's got a storm shield, so it's 3+.
No, but Finest Tower does not gives you a +1 on your ward save. It just gives you a 3+ invul. That's what.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought it gave you a +1.
No, 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 no,
Sorry,
no.
I was
But
misremembering.
it's
Yeah,
still
you're right.
it's still better than Calgar. Yes.
With a 4+, yeah.
Yeah. So we have
And he
been
gets the
even
repeat.
more epic. So next year will be even more epic if we can get them both to duel again. But yeah, Gazgul without the Wog has no invul.
Yeah. So next year I'll be doing Drago and a paladin squad with all demon hammers, Nemesis force weapon demon hammers.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how you do against a whole squad of force weapons causing instant death, 2 wounds each
Oh
with
man,
yeah.
instant death against orcs right now is so mean because they have no save whatsoever against it. Because they in the recent codex, by the way, people they lost all the invul save. They're running on feel no pain, but you can insta kill them easily. I mean, especially since we rerolled ones, everything that had strength 8 or more was pretty much a guarantee. If you hit, it was a guaranteed kill. So with no save possible whatsoever.
Yeah, that's true. I don't even need to use the force weapon thing on the orcs because they're only 4 toughness.
Yeah.
Just war bosses and stuff for 5 toughness.
And that saves them a lot.
Well, yeah, except if I do all paladins and stuff
Ah,
and huge squads of Grey Knights, because I have 50 or 60
really?
Grey Knight. Yeah,
Just waiting for next year.
I
Waiting for
have
the moment.
the big plastic GW army cases.
Yeah.
I have one full of metal Grey Knight strike squads with force halberds from years ago when the Grey Knights were first released.
If you could see my face right now.
Yeah, so there's
Cool, cool. Yeah. Bring it.
a whole army of force weapons, just insta kill everything. Go go
Uh,
go.
They're still AP3 though.
Yeah, that's the only problem. Well, the Thunder Hammers, the Demon Hammers aren't.
Yeah, but that's one
And
per
it used to,
squad.
no, it's not anymore.
No, okay.
No, it used to be one per squad.
In a way, I have 2 squads of Mega Nubs. After that, I'm a more 4, so you can cut right through it like a hot knife in butter.
Uh, it's I don't believe in building armies tailored to kill my opponents. I'll just bring whatever I feel like bringing, and maybe next year I'll do something funny like a Sentinel Swarm. I think
We'll
I have
see.
like
We'll see.
15 Sentinels or something. I'll do Imperial Guard, just hordes of Sentinels running all over the table.
Maybe we'll
It won't
just
be effective.
add more points. Maybe we'll just add more points for next year.
Well, we could do that too. I got plenty more points I can throw down.
Oh,
I
I'm
got my
sure
whole
you.
army. My sister's a battle army. I've got my Tau. I've got there's plenty more where that came from. Anyway, yeah.
No
So back to our
problem.
game.
We have to get over 9,000 at some point just to be able to yell it.
It's over 9,000. Yeah. Um.
All right,
So
back to the
turn
game.
turn.
Another highlight for me was when my oh yeah, instead of taking my Scolamite, which is a conversion that I've spent a lot of hours working on, uh, and it never works, the Scolamite, it's even worse now. So I proxy a Hellhammer Imperial tank. So this guy, which I call the Gorkhammer. So the Gorkhammer and the Big Mech Stomper, they took out one of the Warhound Titan in one round of shooting. Yay! But it took everything for them, and then they also had help from like Lutas to take out the shield first, and then I barely made it like to the last point, but that was still a highlight. I think that was a bit of a like intimidation turn of shooting, but you may do with that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the next turn. So that was. I think that was bottom of turn one. Because
Yeah,
top of turn two, I spent most of my time. We only played 3 turns, by the way. Um, the top of turn two, I spent most of my shooting trying to take out your Big Mech Stompa's shields and failed. I couldn't get them down. I think I got them down to 2 or 3 shields,
yeah,
and then I just gave up and started shooting at other stuff because I realized I was going to get overrun if I didn't do something to at
yeah,
least
because I
try to
had
thin out your front line.
I had dread mobs and nubs going on your
Yeah,
line.
so
So yeah,
so I dumped a bunch of firepower into your dreadnoughts and killicans and stuff to thin them out a little bit. Um, but then on turn three, my second warhound, I shot at your. I think it was a dreadnought that shot at the Stompa and took down its last few shields,
yes,
and then I fired with um, the second warhound titan,
yeah.
and I rolled a 6, and
No,
then
first, wait. First, you kept scattering, okay, because you had 4 shots all in all with the weapon,
right,
okay.
because I had two
So like
twin
2 of
turbo
them
laser
scattered,
destructors.
the third one like connected, but I canceled it with my custom force field, and then the last one hit.
Yeah, it hit. It went. You failed the force field roll.
Yeah,
I rolled a 6, so I did d6 plus 6, and then I rolled another 6, so I did 12 wounds all at once,
yeah, and I had
and took off
12
all
hit
12.
points, so poof, in one hit, bam.
Yeah, took all 12 hull points, and then everything died because it was full of orcs. That thing, so it killed a bunch of characters and a
Oh
bunch of
yeah, it was
orcs.
full of mech boys, so and big mechs, so they all died. That was epic. In one shot. Wow, you can one shot a big mech stumper, really? Oh my god.
Apparently, you know what you need? I was thinking about that. You need to get oh, what the hell, the Gorkanauts or Morkanauts or whatever.
But why? They're not good.
But they look kind of cool. I don't care how good it is.
They look kind of goofy, but I don't know, that's a lot of point, and they're not super heavies.
Proxy to something else. Make it an Orc Knight.
Oh yeah,
It's,
I
it's,
could work as a Orc Knight. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that could work. Because Knights,
the model's
I
cool.
was really impressed by Knights. Imperial Knights, I'm really impressed by what they can do. They can dish out damage, they can take damage. and when they explode, they kill thing apparently.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm looking into
Yeah.
options to proxy Imperial Knights in maybe one in the next game. I'm already looking at what I have in bits left, what kind of conversion I can do, what kind of perks I could use, but really impressive models, impressive rules, good looking models. I've seen some great conversion online also, so like orc conversion of the Imperial Knight, so maybe I can try something. Like I took out two of yours in that game. The first one, I tried to charge him with like my first unit of Mega Nub, which was 9 Mega Nubs, super strong unit with a War Boss and Mega Armor. Rah. I failed the charge. You countercharge with Marnius and his Terminators, and the Knight countercharged me, and you basically killed everyone except the War Boss.
Yep.
But I succeeded in taking out the Knight, but that was like a full unit of 9 Mega Nubs. I have nothing that is stronger than that. So that's like, okay, a full unit, and it barely made it. And it's like worth more than 500 points with the War Bus.
Yeah.
It's
No.
like, geez.
He definitely paid for itself.
Yeah. Um. Oh yeah, and the War Bus only survived because, okay, on the first turn I couldn't roll even like a 4, a 4 plus on
Yeah.
anything.
Your first turn dice rolls were horrible.
But
I.
I was just buying karma, for the
Yeah.
following
Apparently.
rounds.
Because yeah,
After
the
that,
next
I
turn.
just kept rolling fives. Well, like Tonio, I had like in that fight, the only guy who survived on my side was the war boss, but Marnus won me 4 times, so I had four feel no pain to do at 5+, and I made them all.
For sure.
Because at starting on the second round, it was like my dice were just hot. Yeah.
Yeah. I hated you. I won't lie. I hated you just a little bit.
Oh no, you don't. Hey, let's talk about the second night that I took down. Um, I had a unit of nubs with Grotsnick that was getting too close to his objective and to his other to his second Warhound Titan. So he sent a knight in to back him up to relieve him. So he shot the nub and there was a war bus in that unit also. So he shot them and charged them. So only Grotsnick survived. After that,
Yeah.
I
No. I
sent
was shooting. That was a Knight Paladin, so it had the rapid fire battle cannon.
yeah.
So I dropped 2 templates on them. Yeah.
Boom, boom. So like some orcs survive with like a war bust, two nubs with power claws and Grotsnick, and then you charge me and only Grotsnick survive, and I don't remember if he did anything. And then I sent another unit of nubs with the war bust in them, and this succeeded in taking out the knight, but when you explode, you reroll for the worst, like the most devastating explosion ever, without a scatter, of course.
Yeah.
So
So I
centered
centered a
where
D
was
template on top of them.
yeah, so he's placed a D template on top of me. Boom! So he insta kill all the nubs that were left. So it's like, okay, so it took me 2 war buses, Grotsnick, and 2 units of Norbs to take him out. Jesus Christ.
And those knobs. How many power claws in there, right?
They had 3, I think. 2 or
Yeah.
3. Each of the unit plus the war bus had one. The 2 war buses and Grotsnick had one too. So
Yeah.
it was the perfect unit to take him out, and still you,
Absolutely.
and that's again a lot of points, man. A lot more points than the knight probably.
Yeah. Well, the Knight. I think the Knight's around 380 or something.
Oh yeah, that was
360, 380. Yeah. Well, it's only because I exploded, and
that was
if I
kind of
hadn't
funny.
exploded, it probably would have been a fair trade. But yeah, the explosion that killed everything was hilarious.
God. After that, what? I like the because since I moved everything forward and you started deep striking Terminators, like in my backfield, try to take the other objective. So I had to bring stuff back, like kilocans, like the slower kilocans. That's what they did. They
Yeah,
came
they went
back,
back,
and
killed
they've
Terminators.
been nerfed really bad in that new codex. So I think the best target for them are Terminators. because they used to be strength 10. They are now strength 7. So they cannot really destroy vehicles anymore. So the best
Huh.
target
Well, they
is
can destroy light vehicles. Yeah, but yeah, their best target's probably heavy infantry. Makes sense.
yeah, yeah. So I think that from now on they won't even try to advance. They
But I mean,
just
they're also they're wounding on twos, and it's equivalent of dreadnought power weapons or dreadnought close combat weapons, right? So it's like a power fist.
well,
So there's no
yeah.
armor save, right?
So it's AP2, yes. Strength 7 AP2.
Yeah. Okay.
But
So.
I strike before your power fist, and so it's a good unit to
Oh
take
yeah,
care
yeah.
of
No, for sure.
Terminators.
Yep. And see, that's the thing. Essentially because it's Apocalypse, it's an unbound army list, right? And
Hmm.
people hate the new Orc Codex. They don't find it competitive anymore. But in this type of environment where there's no real structure and you can take, hordes of knobs and hordes of dreads and whatever, in Apocalypse formations, the Codex becomes super effective. I find.
Well,
Though to
in
be
mainly,
honest, I
yeah, in
imagine
me,
every
it's true.
Codex is like that in that environment because there's enough good units that if all you take is the good units, then the army book isn't bad anymore.
Exactly. I don't know if nubs are considered good, but I like to play them a lot. I mean, I use the Bully Boys formation. That's 6 units of 6 full units of nubs. But when I say
Oh,
full units, like around 8 or 9.
and let's not forget. So because you had the formation, you did wasn't there something you rolled to see what special abilities you
Oh,
had?
that was for the Dread Mob. So the Dread Mob I was using it was 6 Dreadnoughts and 9 Kilocans, and I roll on the table to get a bonus. And in the best result you can roll, because it's random, the best result is all the bonuses. So they had Hammer of Rat, they had It Will Not Die, they had a 5+ invul, and +1 strength on all their range weapon. The plus
Yeah,
one
so
strength didn't really matter, but the
that invulnerable,
that
that
invul.
invulnerable save.
Pretty much
If I could
everyone had
have,
a 5+ in this
yeah,
list.
exactly. If I could have flipped the table at some points there, buddy, it came close.
Ah, damn. Yeah, I was succeeding way too many 5+s
Oh, it was fun.
for
I
that.
figure it was your birthday, so it was the birthday exception.
And what the nubs do, it's they have fearless and feel no pain. All the nubs in the bully boys.
Yeah,
So I had 2 full units of mega nubs and 4 units of nubs, and all of them comes with a war boss also. So that's the core of that's really like the big core heart of the army. If you can pass that, I'm falling down. I have that and the Big Mac Stampa. Oh
yeah.
yeah, I was talking about the Terminators. So Paul deep
Oh
strikes
yeah,
like all this bunch of Terminators in my backfield, and he has on the last turn he has a mishap. So I get to place the Terminators, that unit of 5 guys, on the table where I want. So there's plenty of spot where if I place them there, they're out of the game. They're too far to do anything. But instead, I place them right in front of Gasgul and his units of Mega Nubs, because I know that Calgar will die that turn. So next turn I will be able to charge those Terminators and keep Gasgul occupied. So
yeah.
we
You're
have
a jerk.
something to do, of course.
You're a jerk. Just throwing that out there.
It's like, oh, I'll put them right in front of me. Yep, yep. Because of course after that I called my finest hour. So guys go to run on invul save all game.
Yeah,
Yeah, jerk.
Mr. Poopy Head.
That was
That was a
cool.
good game though. I had a lot of fun.
Yes, me too.
It was a good
Definitely.
way to. It was a good way to spend 10 hours or whatever.
And something that's what I mean, I think about the last year's game. Okay, it was really different in a way that last year's game I won it, but barely. When we counted objective points, I won 21 to 20.
Yeah.
But we both know that if we would have continued the game, all your big stuff was destroyed. I was just pushing more for the objective, and I would have within that gap. Okay. But this game, I won like it's like a ridiculous amount of points, like
Oh, it was
30 to
30
8.
to 8. Yeah.
But we both know that if the game would have continued, the win would have turned because basically at the start of the
You
game
were
I
starting to
rush for
thin
the
out.
objective and just hug on them, and I just throw stuff at you to slow you down.
Yeah, you were running out of stuff to throw at me, right?
Exactly. I
I still
had
had a
almost
knight
nothing left,
and a
so
titan left, and a lot of tanks. I had my what, 2 land raiders, 3 land raiders.
yeah,
I had 3 land raiders and a couple predators left, and
there
yeah,
was only one way this game could go if we continued. But
yeah. But
since
the
it's
thing is,
apocalypse,
you'd
it's
racked
long.
up. It's nice to say that, but it probably would have taken me another turn at least to clear up some of those objectives. So it would have been turn 4. You would have been getting 4 points per objective. So the gap would have widened again. And then I don't think, even if I controlled all the objectives, I don't know if I could have narrowed that gap enough, like, and caught up by the end of the game, because you wouldn't have lost every objective. Like I
Maybe
think
not.
I think it would have been a lot closer, but I think ultimately you still would have had a victory there. The fates were just not with me. That's okay. There's
Wait,
always next time.
yeah, it was my birthday, so for the apocalypse, the dice gods will favor you, my son.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll have Remote Gullyman come out of a time warp rift thing
Sure,
and fight along with my Ultramarines.
sure. A mix of 30k and 40k.
But just a little Primarch action, to fight Gazgul.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen any of the rules for him yet.
No, Gilliman, no.
He's got this. So because Gullyman's the strategist, right?
Mm-hmm.
For so he's got a rule where basically when he starts combat, his weapon skill is 7, I
Okay.
think it is. But every turn he fights the opponent, his weapon skill increases by 1
Increases.
because he starts to learn your weaknesses.
He sees
So he's like the
pattern
long
in
plan guy.
okay in
Yeah,
how you
exactly.
fight.
So the longer the fight goes, the better he gets. So I thought that was awesome,
Yeah, that's cool.
and I really I like the model. I don't know how I feel about the pose, but I like the sculpt itself. I'm not a big fan of the base, though. I think it looks cool. I just think it's gonna be kind of out of place on a table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
totally.
yeah.
It's more
But
like a
anyway,
diagram.
we're supposed to be talking about a game here, so yeah, I sidetracked us again. I'm good at that. Yeah, so yeah, on the whole, the orcs crushing defeat of the Space Marines. Ultramar and Titan are sad, but yeah, a great way to spend a day.
Yep.
Rolling dice with a friend, watching him drink beer because I was on antibiotics.
Yeah. On top of that, I was drinking beer in your face. Yeah, you couldn't join. I'm really a
The,
jerk.
the best part was when you tried that maple beer that I had in the fridge.
Ah.
I hadn't tried it yet, and I was like, oh, I was gonna drink this today, but I can't. So I'm like, yo, you have to try one.
Yeah,
And
so, some things are just not meant to exist. I mean,
who is it that makes it again? It wasn't Rickards. It was
Saint Ambroise.
Saint Ambroise. That's it. And yeah, someone recommended it to me. So like, well, it tastes like maple, but it's not super syrupy, and it's actually quite good and very interesting. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll buy it. And I never got around to drinking any, and now I couldn't. So I'm like, well, Yom, you have to have one. And then seeing Yom's face, it was hilarious. And he kept trying, right? And
Yeah,
I'm like,
because
Yom,
I like maple syrup, so I kept trying. Maybe. Nope.
I'm,
Nope.
I'm
Nope.
like, you don't have to drink it, man. Just dump it. It's all good. No offense taken. But yeah, it was funny.
It was horrible. No offense to Saint Ambroise, but it was horrible.
So mental note: no maple syrup in the beer.
Yeah. Keep it for pancakes.
Exactly. Okay, well, I think that pretty much wraps up the game.
Yeah, so I call it a success.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
definitely success with the orcs. So yeah, I think that's it for all our gaming too.
Yep.
I don't know if we lost Antoine. He's been quiet for a while.
Well, you were talking. So.
I know. I'm just making sure you're not asleep at the wheel over there.
Almost.
Okay. So why don't we take a quick break, and then we'll come back and do our upcoming events news and the question of the week, and then we'll just do the lead in for the interview with Brandon. So we'll be right back, geeks.
soir, il fait noir, je vois plus clair. Tu sais bien que le bonhomme s'en vient. Il est venu voir le pain de malheur, le fait crier baleine. Un moment donné, je commence à avoir peur. Il m'a encore fait mes mots du travail trop fort. Je peux pas croire qu'il est pas encore mort. J'ai voulu parler aux petits, ils sont sauvés dans leur lit. J'ai pas le moyen pour la causerie.
And we're back with upcoming events. So, Antoine, why don't you take this for us?
Like we did in the past 2 shows, we're only mentioning new stuff or stuff that have changed. So the only item we have this time is the Game Summit convention that was held in Ottawa. I've changed owner and they are now called Capital City Expo. It will be held on October 3rd and 4th. The website is cgexpo.ca. It will be the same kind of event, but they will add more type of gaming. So instead of being only tabletop like RPGs, miniatures, and cards, they will add other events like more cosplay. They'll add video games and stuff like that. So it's still in Ottawa, same kind of event but bigger, with a new crew behind it, and it should be interesting. Sadly, it's the weekend before Kiasletic, so that will make it hard for us to attend.
What were they thinking? What were they thinking?
They're doing far bigger than we are doing, so
No
I don't think they even care about us.
Well, actually, I don't know about that. Isn't your tournament bigger than theirs?
Yeah, but they are not doing only tournaments.
Yeah, but they're not strictly a miniature gaming event.
Exactly.
In terms of miniature event, Chaos Music's actually much bigger than
yes, it is.
Than Game Summit or Capital City Expo, as it's called now.
Yeah. And that's it for the new events.
All right. So let's go into news. So I got a few picks here, and I'll start this off. So Dreamforge Games, who I talked about, make the Leviathan model that I was so impressed with. They've debuted their Eisenkern Command Squad. Now, for those of you who don't know, they have a whole range of models. And one of the factions of the Eisenkern, they're kind of... They're kind of Space Marine meets Death Corps of Krieg-looking guys with a Germanic look, like a World War II German army kind of feel. It's a weird mix, but they're awesome models. They're all in plastic, and they have some really cool vehicles and stuff. Like they have an APC I was showing Yom, and I was talking about how it would make a perfect Gene Stealer cult limo if you want to do a Gene Stealer cult army, because it totally has that look. It's like the stretched APC. I don't know. I think he's got a lot of cool stuff, and it's worth checking out. So go take a look at that. In other news, Warhammer World reopened, and we finally got to see the Warhound Titan that pictures of bits and pieces have been leaking all over the net of.
The Warhound?
And this thing,
the Warlord.
Warlord.
Yeah.
Warlord Titan. Sorry. And this thing is massive.
It's like a little child. It's like a child.
Yeah, it's like your toddler's on the table. And it's got a massive price tag too, so we're looking at about $2,000.
Yeah.
But I found out that for that $2,000, it comes with all its weapon arms. So it's actually not that much worse than a Reaver Titan.
And it's a Warlord Titan. I mean, if you own a Warlord Titan, come on, it's cool. You have to put everything in perspective, right? I mean, like a round trip to Cuba for a week for a family, how much is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Warlord Titan.
Yeah, I'm not sure your wife would agree with you there.
Yeah. It was funny, I was listening to Independent Characters, and he was basically like convincing himself that it was a good deal. And he's like, well, I didn't have to spend the money on the Reaver Titan I was gonna buy, so really it's like the Warlord Titan is half price. So it's okay. And the completionist in me, really wants it. And it was funny. The mental, hoops he was jumping through to try to convince himself that it was okay. It was funny. But yeah, all I'd say, it's an awesome looking model, and I would give away a redundant organ, like my second kidney or lung, probably to have one. But yeah, I don't see one of those in my future anytime soon, but it's really cool looking. And last but not least, so when Warhammer World reopened, they were showing pictures of all the armies on parade and stuff, like all the cool demo models, and people couldn't help but notice that all the demo fantasy armies were on round bases. Yeah, so I guess that rumor is true, folks.
Yeah, the sky is
I've
falling.
seen conflicting rumors about that. Some people mentioned that there were most of the stuff on round bases were more display models than demo armies. So
No,
I don't know, but just the fact that fantasy stuff is on round is
Yeah,
already
exactly.
a sign. Yeah.
I think people are reaching, like, no, it can't be true. There must be a way to explain it. Yeah. Anyway, believe me, I'm not looking forward to rebasing 400 models either. So I understand why you're trying to reach folks, but I think we're done for. Our world blew up and our bases all changed. That's the end. It is the end times. And yeah, that's my pick for news.
They'll just be so much easier to rank up.
Round will be easier to rank up.
Yeah.
Oh, with the special trays.
Yeah, special trade.
Yeah, but just models. Most of the models, like your bloodletters, you just have to turn them a bit, and they'll fit in the tray.
Yeah, no, I get that. I totally get that. But don't forget, a lot of my fantasy stuff is old,
Oh yeah,
which
I
means
know.
it's metal on Slotta base.
Oh yeah, mine too. My dark elf are mostly metals.
Slotta base, cutting a model off a plastic base is bad. Ripping apart a Slotta base to cut this,
that's a pain. I know.
Mhm.
cutting the bar off the bottom of the model and then drilling into the model to pin it to, like, oh my god, I want to think about it. Anyway.
I see a lot of 40k in your future, Paul.
Yeah, well, a lot of my chaos stuff is all new, so at least that's plastics, so I can rebase that fairly quickly. And my demon army, I just finished basing, so I guess I can rip it off all its bases and put it on new bases. Sigh. And I think demons changed, didn't they? Apparently, I'm sidetracking here, but apparently in the new Corn Codex they released for that's the other codex I haven't read. The Corn one that came out for 40k. Apparently the demons in there are on rounds, like bigger rounds, like the 32mm rounds.
Okay.
And apparently the dogs are on the like the bigger oval bases. So I'll have to check it out before I start rebasing stuff. Yeah. All right, Antoine, you're up. What do you got?
Okay, I already mentioned that earlier in the game segment. Home Raiders. It's a new game on Kickstarter right now by Reapercon Games. They make Carnival, I think. Also, the concept is really cool. If you've heard about fairy meat, it's the same kind of thing, but less bloody and more family friendly. So think about all the legends and stuff that's tiny, like the little people who live in your home secretly, like the socks thief, socks, the gnomes who
Underpant gnomes.
yeah. Underpant gnomes. In French, it's the bod habitude. It's the
people that steal the one odd sock. Yeah.
Les voleurs de sleep.
Yeah, so that or the little mice people who steal cheese and stuff like that. And the game is played in a 1-to-1 scale. So your miniatures, which are 28 to 32 millimeters tall, are supposed to be at that exact size, and you play on the surface you have in your home. So you have you just finished eating, you leave the stuff there, and the models play on the table between your dishes and the empty trays and your glasses, and they can interact with terrain, so they can push stuff and you just push the glass and stuff like that. So they play while you're not in your home. They try to control your home for their own tiny kingdoms, and you have a bunch of different faction. They have 5 different one unlocked right now. I think that's what they are aiming for in the Kickstarter. So
Yeah, looking at the Lords of Dust,
yeah,
which appear to be
the Egyptian
penguins.
penguins.
Yeah, Egyptian
They're
penguins.
cool. It's a really industrial world they have, and they have made so much industries and so much garbage that right now they are invaded by dust. They can't move through their own world. So when they found out the portals to our home, that's what they do. They just dump dust in our homes. So if
That
your
explains
house is
everything.
abnormally dusty, it's probably because you've been invaded and they are in control of your of your place.
Nice.
So you have them. You have the new Lilliput from the Gulliver story, and they are like tiny humans, but they found the portals and how to move between worlds. And when they met all the other place, they shared that with them. But they are like the police of our home, so they try to protect your homes from all the other factions that are unruly, like the Lord of Dust. And you also have the gremlins, which are there to raid your fridge and all electronics and break everything they can, just not to break it for the fun of it, but because they like playing with all the all that kind of stuff. So the game is cool. The rule set is pretty simple. There's a lot of special abilities for the models. So even if the basic rules are simple, you can add depth by using the special abilities, and it's all color coded. So the cards are multilingual, so you can play with your kids. They only have to know the numbers and their colors, which is good. They don't have to be able to read yet, and the concept is interesting with kids too. So I've pledged for the base game, the base star, and I'm gonna try it probably next week with somebody else local here to see how it plays. So
you pledged for the base starter.
yeah, it's a 2-player starter set with a small squad of new Lilliput and a small squad of gremlins, and the rules. And they're special dice because they have a special dice for the game. It's not they're D6s, but with custom sides. So
Fun.
the Kickstarter is running until June 7th. It's £45 to get the basic pledge. So that's about what, $70, something like that.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, so it's not that bad for what, 15 miniatures, something like that. Plus the dice and the tokens. So
And it's shipping included too, so that's not bad.
yeah, it's
And it's
shipping
expected
included.
delivery October, so it's really fast.
It's shipping included if you have £80 or more. So right now I do have to pay shipping, but if I add add-ons, or if somebody else adds a faction or something like that on my pledge, I could get the free shipping too.
Who do you know who would possibly do something like that?
I don't know.
Not me.
We've tried something like that for Relics, and you haven't assembled your model yet, so I don't think I'll make you order Home Raiders.
The point is, I ordered the models, so
Oh yeah, I know.
and Pharaoh penguins. Worst case, I
cool.
could use them in
They're
my
cool.
Tomb King army.
Yeah, that's true. You could have special Tom Kings if they're still there in 9th.
Oh, don't remind me. I just got my Screaming Skull catapult finally, and my Casket of Souls. So in Finecast, and that Casket of Souls ain't cheap in Finecast, let me tell you.
No, it's probably not.
It's like a $70 model.
Ouch.
Yeah.
And my second piece of news is Alchemy is coming back. Alchemist Miniature, a group of fans of the game, bunched together, and they got the rights to the game. They have been working on it for a while, a reedition of it, and they're gonna run a Kickstarter in probably in October. That will, on top of having the clean rules, which are all available free in French and English right now with the cards also. And the Kickstarter will also have 2 new factions for the game. So if you liked Alchemy, but were always afraid because it was not really supported, they're trying to get it back here with a better translation to. They have English speakers for the US rules this not the US but the English rules this time. And that's it for my news picks.
Okay. On my side, I wanted to talk about the Babylon Kickstarter for Dust Tactics, because there are news coming from that side in that, my God, nightmare of a Kickstarter.
That's been horrible.
So that went really bad, really sour. But this time it's good news, possibly good news. I'm crossing fingers because that thing went all over the place, and they were toward the end they were just like pointing fingers, trying to damage the other company's reputation. That's all they were doing. So it was really hard to take side. It was just don't touch it, let it go, and at some point just go. It's gonna explode. Or I don't know. But okay, recently we had some news like the studio made some angry public Facebook post saying that their partnership with Battlefront was over, and they will distribute the models themselves. They will contact the backers to send them their models, whatever. And not long after that, Battlefront replied to the backers in an email stating it was a really long email going in details and what happened, like their side of the story a bit, but also saying that you cannot just hand a contract between two companies just like that. And that the kind of behavior from the studio was not really professional, so they were going for a more like smooth approach. And they mentioned a lot in that email that they asked for a list of produced items and that were ready to ship because the studios was bragging about that.
That they were already produced.
Yeah,
not shipped.
exactly, and ready to ship,
Yeah.
and they're only missing money. So Battlefront said, yeah, but we need a list of that to be able to send, not a voucher, but a money order.
A purchase
So
order.
yeah, purchase order, like to buy it, and so you can send it to us so we can distribute. So at first, the studios, well, Paolo Parente says something about like it was all BS, but at some point the backers started saying on Facebook like just send the list and
Yeah,
we'll see.
because that list is have been mentioned to have been sent.
Yeah, to have been sent, but Battlefront was
didn't
saying,
get it for whatever reason.
well, no, they said that it was not the final list. Like
Maybe.
it was sent too soon. It was more like what was ordered and not what is really produced.
Yeah, but
So they
there's
wanted
playing
like
on
an
word on
updated
each
list
side.
soon. What?
There's
Yeah,
playing on word on each side.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure both sides. What's the old saying from Babylon 5? There's 3 sides to every story.
Oh yeah.
My side, your
So
side, and the truth.
and it's like the backers went a bit tired of that and just said just send the list and it will be on their side. So not only did they did that like an updated list, but they posted also on Facebook, the studio. So they have received not long after that an answer from Battlefront saying, "All right, we'll send the purchase order now." So we're waiting. Maybe when that episode is released, we'll have even more news. But right now it's looking good. At least they're talking and there's talk of money being sent. So after that, they'll send the products to Battlefront that will distribute it. And after that, both companies will happily go their separate ways. They're pretty tired of each other right now. So we'll never know who's what, who did what. I don't even care. I just want what I paid for.
Yeah, it's a shame that this has pretty much killed the Dust community in a lot of places, and
Oh
it's
yeah,
really damaged even our local community, right? Who what
exactly.
that was pretty strong
Oh, it
for
was easy
Dust.
to find players. They could make a event with quite a a good number of players, so it was going strong, it was blooming, people were really motivated, and now that happened, and
Now there is less motivation.
yeah, it's not looking good even then, but maybe we'll salvage something. I don't know because Battlefront did the rules for Dust Tactics, the second version, and
Yeah,
Battlefield.
Battlefield. Yep.
So what's gonna happen now? I mean, they have I don't know. They have their say still. We'll see how they split that, but I hope it continues and comes back, but it's hard to tell. Yeah, it damaged
Yeah, we'll
a
just have to wait
great
and
game.
see.
It was a great game, but damn man,
Yeah, I really
that went
think
bad.
I tried Warfare. I thought Warfare was kind of mediocre at best, but Battlefield I thought was pretty slick.
Yes.
So, despite my occasional problems with the models and the material the models are made out of, I thought the game had a lot of potential. So it's good to see that this will get resolved. I just hope the game can recover.
Yep.
So here's hoping.
Here's hoping. That's it.
So
Yeah.
I think that wraps up our picks, our little news section, which I guess takes us into the question of the week, which surprise surprise is from Mike again. Actually, it's the second half of Mike's question from last week or last episode. Um, and it goes a little something like this. Do you have any advice on using extra fine tipped architectural pens for painting? I've read posts on various painting forums that talk of using these pens to highlight or outline areas and also draw tattoos. If you do, any brand you recommend? Um, so yeah, I've actually used some of these micron tip like .05 pens before. I don't know if you guys have for anything.
Yep.
I've used them once, and I've used yours, in fact.
Okay. I've used them
Okay.
several years ago to paint like on Space Marines. How you call that? The little
Purity
Purity
seal.
seals?
parchment purity seals. Yeah. So to
Yeah.
write like scribblings in books and on purity seals. That's pretty much it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I've done too. I was writing on a book. I haven't used them for highlight or edging.
Well, highlights and edging, I don't think. Actually, I've got a good idea for edging, but maybe I'll share that in a second. Um, so, what a lot of people do with these pens is use them for actually blacklining.
Okay.
So, like, say, let's use a Space Marine as an example, because it's got very well defined armor plates, and you know. So what they'll do is they'll take, they'll paint their colors on whatever, and they'll take one of these black .05 pens, and they'll trace the edges of the armor plates to add shading. So instead of washing the model or painting in the black lines, so they'll go around the inside rim of the shoulder pads of the Space Marines with the black pen, and they'll use it to delineate separations, like to show separations between like the gloves and the forearm, and each side of the elbow pad, and edge parts of the mask and parts of the chest plate, just to give it that hard line, almost like a cell shaded look.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
Um, so um, they can be very, very useful for that. And because it's a pen, it's much easier to control, and you get a very like consistent, solid line without any chance or less chance of slipping up.
And there's a couple of colors that you can
Yeah,
use. Yeah.
exactly. There's blue, black, red, green. So the other
Brown.
thing is that is there a brown? I haven't seen
Yes.
one, but that would okay, cool. Um, and yeah, you can use them like Mike said to draw tattoos or do freehands. Though I would say if you're going to do tattoos, remember that tattoos are actually inside the skin; they're not on top of the skin. So if you're going to draw a tattoo on someone, you probably want to do a glaze of your flesh tone over it to kind of blend it into the flesh, so that it doesn't look like it's writing on top of the model. It's supposed to be recessed a little bit. You want to put a wash over it or a glaze to push it back into the surface. Um, Now for edging and stuff, one thing I've seen people do, which doesn't use a pen, but it's along the same lines, is I've seen people use silver crayon, like an artist pencil, like a silver,
Yeah, paint crayons.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, paint crayons, and do uh, like weathering, like edging on tanks and stuff and armor
Yeah.
plates. They want they want to look like the paint's rubbed off or whatever, they'll go along the edges with these art pencils. With the silver art pencil.
Yeah, I've
bring up
seen a
that edge.
tutorial for that, like chipping on a vehicle with that. Yes.
So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff you can do with pens and pencils that, to really make the models pop and to detail them. Anything you guys want to add to that?
Not really.
No,
Oh,
I mean
he
it's
actually asks,
cheating, but
it's cheating.
just kidding.
It's only cheating if it beats you in a painting competition, yo. So yeah, actually, I forgot. Mike asked what brand I'd recommend. I don't know. I've only used I think it's Stadler, or however you pronounce it. That's what I usually find at Desire when I've gone to buy them.
And people in the States might not have access to the same brands anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, I think Stadler is pretty much international, but I don't know. But yeah, you want to get as small point as you can get, 0.05. Remember, these things are felt tips, so you don't really want to press on too hard because it'll kill the end, because that tip is very, very small. And yeah, so that's about all the advice I can give on that. And keep the questions coming, Mike. We're counting on you.
And if anybody else have any questions, send them our way. We'll be happy to talk about them in future shows. And just listen at the end of the show. We'll list all the way you can contact us.
Yeah. If anyone else listens to the show aside from Mike, I'm unsure at this point.
If you're too shy, you can send the questions to Mike. He'll forward them.
Actually, I know Elizabeth Beckley listens to the show because she told me it was in her queue for last episode. So at least I know we got one other listener. And if you're listening to this one, Liz, hi Liz. Okay. Yeah, so that finishes our questions. So we're going to go into our main topic, and the main topic, of course, is the interview I did with Brandon Palmer after Adepticon. We did a little Skype interview. I'm going to give you guys a heads up, though. The audio quality is not fantastic. Skype was being all weird and dropping, and so I'll try to level it out as much as I can. It should be listenable, but it won't be perfect. That being said, a little bit about Brandon. So Brandon is a commissioned painter. Unlike Yom or Antoine, who prefer to do like unit-sized or smaller display quality pieces, Brandon specializes in doing armies, like big 40K armies,
like apocalypse level armies, almost.
Yeah, exactly. He won't do anything less than a 2,000 point army, really, unless there's a good reason to. So that's really what he specializes in. But what he's probably best known for is every year at Adepticon, he builds a diorama.
More than one, most of the time.
Diorama / display board / theme army to play with. And every year he does something different. He alternates between 40K and fantasy. This year he built the Golden Throne, which people may have seen. In previous years he did... the first time I ever saw any of his work was an Empire list he did. I think it was called Rime of the Ancient Marienburger or something. And it was like a Empire army list where on a pirate ship being attacked by a kraken. Yeah, so it was really, really cool.
Yeah, he did the egg chair too.
Yep, the egg chair.
Or you have the fallen king, like a giant skeleton with a village.
Oh yeah, we saw that.
We saw that
we
at
talked
Gen
about
Con.
that in our Gen Con episode. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It was a Chaos Army, I think.
Vampire counts. I think it was Vampire counts.
Maybe.
It's mind-blowing, his dioramas.
Really cool guy. Really interesting person to talk to. Kind of a different view on painting. He's he's definitely a pro. And I think on that note, we're going to take a little break. And we're going to come back and go right into the interview. So we'll be right back, geeks. And we're back, and here I am with Brandon Palmer. Brandon,
Hey, Paul.
how's it going, man?
Oh,
It's okay.
I already screwed it up.
You didn't screw up anything. It's okay. Our podcast is full of screw-ups. That's what we do.
You can cut that out.
Nah, don't worry about it.
Hey, Paul. How's it going?
Good, man. You?
Pretty good.
Thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
It's like 9 or 10 months in the making. Because we were supposed to do this at Gen Con last year, and we never kind of got around to it. And
You're a hard guy to find.
Well, it's because we're a tiny podcast and no one knows about us. We're not super famous like you.
But you're a lot of guys. You're like, what, 5 or 6 guys?
We're 4 guys.
I can always find Steve. I always run into Steve. I'll run into him like 4 or 5 times a day. But
yeah, Steve is Mr. Twitter, and yeah,
Steve's the face.
You know what's funny is I'm actually the face. I'm usually the guy that everyone sees, but Steve is super outgoing too.
Yeah.
So he's got a bunch of friends. Like Adepticon, he was so hard to keep track of. He was always out carousing and/or winning awards.
Yeah.
I don't know if he told you about that, but they came back with like, I don't know, something crazy like 9 plaques. Like him
Yeah, I saw a few. I didn't know it was 9. He's
Yeah, it's something crazy.
He just shows up. Hey, give me the awards. All right, going back to Canada.
Yeah, exactly. Team Canada comes and steals all the awards.
Yeah, that's okay.
All those damn French Canadians. So Brandon, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and about GMM and where you all came from?
Well, I am a miniature painter, army painter, 11 months out of the year. You might know me from, people posting them around. I don't know. You might have seen some of my armies before. The other stuff I do, the 1 month out of the year, I do Adepticon displays for the convention. I've done, there's the throne and the chair for fantasy, the egg chair from last year. Going way back, I did the Pirates, the Pirate Scallywagon display.
That was the first thing I ever saw of yours, and that was freaking awesome.
Yeah, that goes way back, but every year I take basically a month off of the army painting to sort of just make something huge and crazy and fun, and it's sort of like I've said before, that when you're a workaholic, your vacation is just more work, but it's slightly more free in what you do. But yeah, it's sort of an event that I look forward to every year. It's in planning throughout the year. I don't know where you want to start. If you want to start just talking about how I did this year, or
it's really up to you, man. We're not
okay.
We're not super structured here, so talk what
you
want to talk about.
So this year I did the Golden Throne, the thing that the Emperor sits on. I guess where would I start? The thing that's most difficult. I knew what I didn't want to do was I didn't want to make what I think most people, you say, hey, how would you build the Golden Throne in 8 feet? And I think they would say, well, I would buy about 60 Imperial sectors and shape it into a chair and then put a skeleton in it. So I knew that's what I didn't want to do. And then, finishing last year, as I go home and I start thinking about things, and I don't actually start building into the next year, the calendar year, but I started thinking about things and I start looking at parts that I want to use, and I knew I wanted to start with a mannequin, and I knew this year I wanted to start completely from scratch, because I normally would use like another chair, a box, something like that to build it in.
Right. So I know I heard another interview, I think it was on Garage Hammer, where you were talking about the egg chair and how you just kind of saw it and you knew you had to do something with it.
Yeah, because
like as a prop, right?
Right. And before this one, that was kind of my thing, is I would just look at objects that existed and I would make displays out of them.
Right, I guess
the the egg chair, I saw that and I was like, okay, how can I make a display out of that? And it was just there in my head. Okay, we're doing that. The throne and the skeleton, that was this. Basically, they're all the same way. I see an object and I think, okay, I can make a display out of that. This was the first one that was completely from scratch, and I had no idea what I was doing. But
I actually thought you used a chair as a base. I did not realize. See,
I've had people say that,
and I had no idea that it was completely from scratch, because it looked. How to say this? It looked like it was a piece of furniture that pre-existed. Like, it didn't look. A lot of things when people start doing stuff from scratch. I mean, not at your level, obviously,
right.
I guess, but a lot of times they look kind of piecemeal. You can tell it was built from scratch.
And a lot of that wasn't, I mean, that will go a little bit further into things, but when I built it, so much of it had to be like when I built the one side, I couldn't just stack a bunch of boxes because this has to hold 8 feet, 200 pounds of wood. And there wasn't a whole lot of support in the back. So I basically had to build straight up and down, right up next to the mannequin, and then build all of these platforms going down that would eventually form boxes. And so building this thing, it's one of those things that it's kind of a chicken and egg thing, because you need to plan things, but it's built out of things that already exist. I used found objects, found parts. The only thing that was really cut to fit was like the basic wood, which isn't a whole lot. So, but in order to plan, I need to have the things. But in order to know what things I want, I have to know the plan. So it's basically just a process of building a little bit, sleeping on it, getting up the next day, and building all day. And on top of that, the 6 months before, I would just go to antique stores. And you know, sometimes when you go through something in life where you put a lot of effort into something, you kind of get this feeling that there is fate in life. Like, okay, this couldn't have happened at all unless I had done all this other stuff, but I didn't really even plan that. Like last year I did the fantasy throne and the egg chair, and a lot of things that I learned from that, I was not capable then with what I had not learned yet to build the throne.
So it's evolution. You're evolving, and the project's complexity every year evolves with you as you gain more skills from the previous year's project.
Right. So what I learned from that was this process of buying things. I can kind of look at things now and say, okay, that's the right price, size, weight, material, detail, smoothness. Those are the 5 main things.
That's insane.
But like let's say, okay, just a cherub. There's lots of cherubs on there. When I would go and buy a cherub, okay, that cherub is cheap. It's the right size. It's the right weight. It's made out of resin. But it's made to look like stone, and that doesn't work, so that cherub's out. And basically that's going through my mind as I go through an antique store and look at every single little object. Lots of jewelry would be very nice, but it would not be practical. It mostly cheap. The cheapness is the factor. There's a certain abstract, what's the word? Not algorithm, but something in my mind where the size and awesomeness compared to the cheapness, there's a ratio in there, and I know, okay, well, I got to buy that. I have to buy that. Okay, that thing is this size, this awesomeness. I know what I'm going to do with that. That is worth $100. Like the thing on the sculpture's Sanguinor in the middle and the sculpture on his leg, those are actually really expensive. And I mean, they're not really, they're just resin. But because they're religious sculptures in the base form, like why normal people would buy them, they're actually really expensive. But I had to have those, and I knew why. If you look at it now, like, you know, it's not the same without those. Whereas some other parts, like the jewelry and stuff, it's a little bit more. It's not so necessary that I have that exact look, and stuff like jewelry, I would just go to Hobby Lobby and just buy tons of it. Go buy model kits on sale. There's a funny story, is every time I go to Hobby Lobby, I was super efficient with how I would buy stuff. I would try and buy things that were on sale, and I'd spend about $50 every time I'd go like every other day. And I would find things that were on sale, and I'd buy those, you know, using that little algorithm, try and find things that are interesting. And then if there was nothing that I was buying that was not on sale, or I think I got that right.
Right.
And I had I can only use one coupon per time. So I would get, if I ever had a coupon left over at 40% off, there's a rocket kit that is the most amazing rocket kit for parts to dollar ratio. I can use almost every single part in there a bazillion times over, and they're interesting. And so I bought like 5 or 6 of those, and finally on the 6th one, the lady at Hobby Lobby was like, "Why are you buying all these hobby kits?" And I was like, "Okay, I will explain to you one of these days, but you just have to be patient." And so I come through and I buy 2 more, and then one day I buy like 20 cherubs. She's like, "Well, why are you buying all these cherubs? You're buying these cherubs every single time you come in here." And I say, "Okay, just be patient." And so when I finished it, the day after that, it's always the same old lady that works in there. I finally sat down and showed her pictures, and I said, "Okay, you see that little part there? That's that stupid rocket kit I bought 20 times. And this little face here, that's the base of all those cherubs." And she thought that was pretty cool that I was I mentioned that I felt really weird buying all these nice little cherubs that are for old ladies' lawns and stuff, and I'm cutting their faces off. But and that's another aspect to the whole price to time and cost ratio. I could sit there and sculpt a cherub face, or I could go buy one that's on sale for $20 and just hack its face off. So there's a lot of that I don't really ever talk about, which is kind of fun to talk about on here. That you got to compare all these things. Otherwise, the cost of this thing would be outrageous, even though it already is.
Well, I'm sure, and maybe you don't have an exact number, and maybe you don't want to share that number. But looking at the piece when I was there, I got the impression you spent, probably like a couple grand easy on building that piece.
It's I'll tell you, it's more than that, but there's a lot of money in there. But that's the thing is, if I didn't take my time and think about that, I could worse. Like if I had a $20,000 budget, yeah, it could be really to the moon and it would actually be a little bit better. But I don't have that. I got to work with what I have. In terms of entertainment, having fun, I really love painting armies, but financially, I definitely do sort of live for Adepticon. I got to save up a lot of money to make these things. So that's one reason I have to be very frugal, even though I'm not frugal, because I am going and spending $200 on junk that nobody else wants at an antique store. Yeah, you definitely have to think about what you're buying.
But it's typical artist syndrome, where you see something, you see a value there that other people don't see, because for your purpose there is a value.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right? And that's where the artistry comes into play. And I don't know if I told you this when I talked to you at Adepticon, but the first day I was there in registration, the Golden Throne was in the registration room, and I was standing there looking at it with one of our other co-hosts, Yom, and some guy walked up and he's looking and goes, I don't get why this is kind of so special. I get the feeling that anyone who spent the time could build this. And I just kind of looked at him and started laughing.
No, yeah, you told me that. Yeah. Which that doesn't. I'll admit, this is the first one where I'm done, and I feel like for the very first time, I'm done with this. If you look at this and you don't get it, it's all right. If you look at it and you don't like it, that's okay, because this one I've always put everything into all the others, but this one was like I can't go any further. I cannot take a month and put any more of my soul into something and survive. So it's okay. And that's actually true. The whole, not everybody. But yeah, if somebody took the time, enough time, they could remake that. Same as anything else. Anybody that can write Star Wars, but George Lucas was the one that did it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really that. I mean, it's Star Wars. It's a good story, but you take some of the best writers, and yeah, they could probably write that. But it was George Lucas that did it, and the time he did it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this is at all anything like Star Wars. This is just some guy in a throne surrounded by junk. This is not at all the same. But that's my point. Is that's okay if he feels that way.
Well, I don't know. I felt the piece was very impressive, and talking with other people, other artists at the event, everyone
this is definitely
who knew anything about making something was like, wow.
This one, more than any other, is one where artists and people that like science fiction, gothic things, gothic literature, things like that, they like it a lot more than the others, where like the throne and the egg chair was like, oh, that's Geiger. Everybody knows Geiger. And you sort of there's not as much depth to it. There's a lot more depth to this one that if you get it, it's a lot more enjoyable. But at the surface, yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
So looking at it from kind of a higher level, so basically you spend 11 months of the year planning these projects, and then 1 month in all-out building frenzy. Is that really how it works?
So, well, planning is a strong word. It's more like if I feel like thinking about it while I'm working, I'll think about it. And if I feel like I have time to look for stuff, I will. I'm the sort of person that is very obsessive about things, and I only will work on... It really bothers me to be working on two things at once. I just can't do it. So, like... Here's a good example right now is I have things that I took to Adepticon that I had to finish right beforehand. but I had an army before that was almost done. So those things are just going to be on hold until I get back and I finish this army that was from before, and then I'll finish those things. Basically, I'm an obsessive person. I can only work on one thing at a time. And if I find time to think about it, I will. I like to take a lot of vacations. You might call them that. Just drive somewhere and go to an antique store, see what they have, because that's one thing that is difficult about this. I can go to the same antique stores in town and see what they have, and it might refresh once a month. But the more I spread out, the more I can find. And there's a lot of things you will find in an antique store at good prices too that you just can't go buy on Amazon. Some things I did, just go buy on Amazon or HobbyLink or all these other places, but there's a certain charm to the things that you can find just in an antique store just sitting there that you can't get on Amazon or eBay or something like that. It's hard to explain, but that's one reason for the build-up is I have to gather supplies. I have to save the money to buy those supplies. I have to think about it. The whole improvisational part where I was talking about, I need to make a plan, but I have to have the parts to make the plan, but I don't know what those parts look like yet. That's the whole thing. So it's sort of like these two hands constantly crossing each other, and eventually they get to the end result, which becomes a huge flurry at the end where I will have days I have no idea what this side or this section is going to look like, but I'm going to have to go inside, go to bed while I'm going to sleep, figure out what that's going to look like, and wake up the next day and do it. Because there's no possible way, because the part that's underneath that, this substructure to that, I just thought of the day before, because I didn't have the parts to make that until the day before. I didn't cut them to fit. So that's one reason it has a lot of character that it wouldn't have if I planned it from the beginning. And if you look at some of the drawings that I did, a lot of the drawings I do are pretty silly because they're not intended to be the final thing. They're intended to just get it out and onto paper and look at it.
Yeah, it's kind of so you can get the ideas out there and then kind of look at them all and go, oh, I like that idea from this picture, this drawing, and I like that from this drawing. Maybe I can
exactly.
make it work, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll sit there, like if I'm working on the part where the two cherubs are at the top, that was 3 or 4 drawings. Okay, I could draw it like this. I can draw it like that. Okay, I know I've got this one part. I can put it there, this trim. Okay, that one works. And then the thing is none of those drawings even look like what I do the next day, because there's the whole aspect of trying to cut things so that they fit and also look good. You can't really draw that.
Yeah,
you can, but there's no point to me sitting there staring at it, trying to get precise measurements and making it fit, because I not only don't have time, but that's, like I said, that's part of the improvisation of it, is just winging it. And that's kind of how I'm a very wing it kind of person. I think that there's a character to things when you plan a lot of it, you plan the important stuff, but when it comes to the little details, there's a lot of character in just artistic license, improvisation that you can't get otherwise.
Well, I think that's pretty much a hallmark of every artist, right? Is that they kind of play it by ear as they go, because they don't.
True.
They may have a general idea where their painting is going or their sculpture or whatever, but it's not there yet. So it's as they're doing it, it starts revealing itself.
Yeah,
I don't think
absolutely.
I don't think anyone plans, a sculpture, from beginning to end. This is what it's going to look like.
True.
Unless they're trying to do something like a sculpture of a specific person. Obviously, it's a bit different. But
yeah,
I think there's a flow to these things, right? And you can't really interrupt the flow. You just have to kind of let it out and see where it takes you.
Right. I guess it feels more so because a lot of the things that I study when I make these things, I visit a lot of replica prop forums. I mean, that's one of them. RPF is one of the forums. And they do a lot of things that are specific to the millimeter. So that's sort of the one of the environments that my modeling train of thought comes from. So it's very different from what I just run into people doing and watch what they're doing. They're very precise, very planned, technical sort of modeling. Because I love the sci-fi modeling and making of ships, and I mean it goes all the way back to Star Wars and things like that, where people would make ships out of junk, basically, which is what this is. It's giant thrown out of junk.
Well, it's like the original Space Marine grav tank, right? You ever remember that picture used to float around as the
Oh yeah.
the speed stick, where they
Yeah.
they repainted it and stuck a turret on top, and it was a grav
Right.
tank. Same idea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've made some awesome stuff, and there's no denying it.
Well, thank you. But it's just something, like I said, it's people enjoy it. It's something I do really as a vacation, which it doesn't make any sense, but
Well, sure it does. You're passionate about it. You know,
yeah.
look at it this way, and I think every miniature hobbyist can identify with this. How many miniatures do we own? Most of us own hundreds, if not thousands.
Right.
And you got to assemble them, and you got to paint them. And to the layman, we seem retarded because that's not fun, right? What do you mean? You got to assemble
True.
those guys and paint them all, and then you've got rules to follow and things to learn so you can play a game. Like, that does not sound like fun to most people,
Right.
right? So, I think everyone kind of really, this is fun to you. I look
Yeah.
at this and go, oh my god, I would go insane, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm not artistic by nature. I just don't have it in me.
It's definitely different things for different people.
Yeah.
And going back to the prop forum, I mean, I've seen people make some incredibly, like, I wouldn't have the patience to make something that detailed and precise, and these people will go back to movies and look at screenshots and try and reverse engineer things from movie stills, and that's really interesting to me. I love to watch people do that, but I can't actually do it myself.
Well, that's a whole other level of OCD, right?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's just, OCD and I don't know, some other issue working itself out, making these things. But it's fun.
And that's what's important, right? You do it because you love it.
I now have a dining room full of these things.
Well, that was actually one thing I was going to mention. Like, what do you do with these giant sculptures after you're done? So
Yeah, they're all in my dining room. I got to get rid of my kitchen table this year. This is the first year where it's officially got to go. So it's a 3/4 room, wall to wall of these things.
That's pretty insane.
Yeah, I mean, I would sell, especially the throne. All the others are kind of personal to me, but the throne I think is different enough. If there's somebody might have interest and want to buy it, but I mean, that's not really why I make them. It would definitely be nice in terms of getting the money back out of it to make another one, but
Yeah, kind of roll that investment into the next one. Eh?
yeah, I mean, I imagine some people would look at me having them all sitting in my dining room and think, well, that's, that seems kind of pointless. But to me, that's fine. If they sit there forever, that's fine. If one day somebody comes along and buys them all, that's fine too. I mean, we'll see. It would be really nice. I'd like to. There's a couple more I want to do in the same vein as the throne, and maybe at that point, I would like to maybe talk to galleries. And I mean, not saying it's really art on the same level as what they'd normally be showing, but it would be nice to put them all in a professional setting and photograph them all at the same time. Just have them in one place.
Yeah,
I'd really like to do
be a
that.
cool setup.
But we'll see.
I would love that. And this year, I think, was the first year you didn't play, right? You just had the throne.
Yep.
That was your...
Yep, I just went and hung out. I don't. When you go and you play at Adepticon, you either play games or you see people. That's pretty much
it's hard
what
to do
it boils
both.
down to.
Yeah, it's totally hard to do both.
And I've played games for, this is year number 7, I think, and just wanted one where I could hang out and talk to people and try and at least see everybody for 5 minutes. And even not playing, I could barely do that. So, but it was fun. I'm gonna have to go back to Fantasy next year, I think, but it was
9th
fun.
edition.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out. I do have an idea that was left over from this year that I didn't get to that I would love to do for Fantasy, but we'll have to see if it even works as a display for whatever rules they come out. So.
Yeah, well, this year I don't know if you missed much in the fantasy tournaments. I get the impression they were less fun than usual. I think the end time stuff kind of messed it up for everyone.
Yeah, I think there's people showing up they're probably at home, they don't play end times, and they come home, they come to Adepticon and everything's fair game, and well, they show up and they don't want to play end times, they don't know what it is, they get smashed and they go home, and
well, I mean,
yeah, I think that's what it was. There's been so many changes since last year, and you got people showing up that may not even know about them.
Yeah,
they know about them, but they may not play with them on a regular basis.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at the championship, they had this year was supposed to be the biggest one ever. I think it was 200 seats they had opened up, and I think they only had 140 signups.
And it was like at the end of Sunday, they had less than 100 people.
Yeah, and by day 2, like they'd lost like 40 or 50 people who just left after day 1.
Right.
Like, that's brutal. As a TO, I'd be gutted if that happened to me.
Yeah, but I know Alex knows that it's just part of part of what's going on.
It's because when let's be honest, it's when they said, you know what, we'll allow end times. Only Nagash was out.
Right. That's true.
The list didn't break the game. The Undead Legions list just made Undead more playable, actually, and it helped the Tomb Kings a lot. And, you know, Nagash was a big beastly character, but you can deal with him. Cannonballs would kill him in 2 seconds.
I saw
and,
it.
You know, and the Mortarks and stuff are okay, but they're not game breaking.
Right.
So his decision was based around just that book being out. And then we saw
everything else
Undead Legions. You're like, oh, and then, you know, Carl Franz Ascended. Oh, the list of the Eternity King list. Oh. That was just.
Yeah, that's all you can do is just make a decision on what you're gonna have, and you can't really change that. And it's not his fault. It's
you don't want to flip flop, right? Because that's no good either. So.
Yeah, and that's also just the timing. You know, if this tournament were 6 months from now, it'd be a lot different. It's just the timing of the year, and we'll see. Next year will be good because we'll supposedly have 9th edition, and that'll have been around for a while and under our belts. Should be good.
Yeah, hopefully be interesting. And I mean, I don't subscribe to like all the doomsayers, the round bases and bubble hammers are calling it, and you know, everything's gonna be different. Like, there's no reason for GW to do that financially. Like, yeah,
I think
we're gonna
that
scrap
there
all
is.
these armies. Well, I don't think there's any reason to scrap the game the way it is. I think if they do introduce a skirmish game, I think it'll be parallel. It'll be 2 ways to play the game.
Exactly.
And the idea of the skirmish game is it's an introductory game, right?
I don't know if I told you this at Adepticon, but here, where I'm from, Lord of the Rings and War of the Ring are the 2 biggest games. I mean, 1 game, 2 games of anything. We have more players of those 2 than anything else, and Fantasy being a second with like 4 people. We've always believed since those games first came out, we had Lord of the Rings as the skirmish. It came out first, and then we had War of the Ring. When War of the Ring came out, we thought that they were just using the license and what they've got going as a way to secretly test future fantasy editions. Because the rules are really tight, they're really nice. I like the game. I just don't play it because, frankly, I don't like that's a different thing. I don't like that the models can't be used interchangeably because of scale and everything. But we always thought that it was them playtesting rules publicly, secretly. And I think that's what they might do. They might have some way of ranking up 25mm bases on round, and then you can also play a skirmish game. That would give a lot of credence to the rumors that I've not heard rumors that they're getting rid of 20mm, but that like Empire and the humans are getting more bulky chaos, sort of big knights.
Yeah, it's supposed to be some
because
faction.
That's the only issue is how do you deal with 20mm if you go to, because 25mm round and square rank up the same.
Yeah.
But you've got 20mm that's just kind of like the oddball. So that's the only question. I mean, I could also see them just somehow changing the rules where there's no facing on monsters, and that's what we're seeing, or something like that, and that's why they're on round bases. I don't know.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
It's not. I really don't think it's going to be disastrous either way.
No.
Like I was talking to James Wapple, and he's like, "I'm done. I'm like, okay, why?" He's like, "Well, they squatted my armies." I'm like, "What do you mean they squatted your armies?" Well, I played Lizardmen, and I play Tomb Kings, and they're both gone. That's why are you saying that? What? Okay, the Lizardmen took off in outer space, but the whole world exploded. So,
Yeah.
your guys are still alive on a spaceship. Everyone else is dead. Maybe yours is the only army that survived. Like you can't really worry about it until it happens, right? But I think GW fans were so used to complaining about everything, we just can't imagine GW doing something right.
Right. Yeah.
It is inconceivable in our minds.
Anymore, I just say, okay, that's a rumor, that's a thing, but let's see what it actually is. I mean,
if nothing else, they're fun to listen to and discuss. Over the water cooler.
Oh yeah, I still discuss it. It's fun to talk about, but in terms of planning anything, I'm just completely up in the air until GW tells me directly with a book, these are the rules.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. There's no point in worrying about it till it's here.
right.
And we don't have that much longer to wait, probably. It's probably July.
Probably not, yeah.
Yeah.
So the next, like I said, next Adepticon will have some solid rules and
And you know what? Maybe GW's finally starting to listen to people. Like they're launching. I don't know if you follow 40k at all, but you've got all the Adeptus Mechanicus stuff coming out for 40k now, and people
Right.
have only been waiting for that for 25 years.
right.
Who knows? Maybe GW's finally listening to the player base, and we'll get an amazing edition of Fantasy that has everything we've always wanted in it. Yeah, it could happen.
Yeah, the new AdMech stuff's really nice.
Yeah, I've
I don't have anybody that plays locally, so I don't play a lot of 40k, but I follow the models pretty close. I mean, obviously, painting them for people, I got to keep track of what comes out. But the models have been really nice lately for both sides. It's pretty. People complain about the prices, but you could almost say that they're high, definitely. But you can almost say, like, what if GW came out with a Kickstarter today with the models they're releasing today? Without GW existing, they're just in the market as it is otherwise. It'd be really good. They do really well because the models are nice.
yeah.
They obviously wouldn't have the fluff background and the years behind all that, but
They charge a premium, but it's like
they do.
It's like any industry leader, right? We're getting kind of off topic, but that's okay.
That's fine.
It's all good. Any industry leader charges a premium for their brand of product,
Right.
right? Whether it's consumer electronics, whether it's cars. It's like if you take the highest end Toyota and compare it to or not Toyota, maybe what was it, Lexus? Lexus Toyota's
Sure.
high-end brand, right? Take the highest end Lexus and you compare it to the highest end Mercedes, and Mercedes is more expensive. But
Yeah.
really, does Mercedes have anything over the highest end Lexus? Not really. All it's got is the Mercedes brand. It doesn't
I
have
wouldn't
more.
know. I'll take your word for
Well,
it.
it's like anything, right? So if you've got the premier brand will always be more expensive because their brand name has more value or more perceived
Right.
value, right? So I think GW charging 15-20% more than the competition, while it sucks for the consumer.
Yeah, but that's also I think why they're
It's not outside, the norm.
yeah, but I think that's why they also are looking at the skirmish game because it's just too big of a jump to go from
Cost
no
of entry.
models to needing 40 models for a unit. I mean,
Yeah, well-
for a person that's a fan of GW and a fan of the game, that's okay. I'll do that. But if you're a younger,
You're a
you've
12-year-old
never heard of
kid trying
GW,
to play the game.
yeah, you walk into the store and you say, okay, I'd like to play this game. What do I buy? Well, you need to buy 4 units of this thing over here, and that's 40 models, and it's a lot of money just to jump into. And I think that it would actually be really good for the game in terms of getting new people if there's a skirmish version. And skirmish games really are pretty popular right now for that reason. It's basically because GW didn't do it first that all these other skirmish games are so popular. I mean, if they would have done it with all the fluff, background that they have and fans that they already had, instead of letting the fans dwindle a little bit and go to other games, they could have caught it up earlier. But it's GW.
Yeah, well, slow to react, right?
Yeah. But we also have to be thankful for all these other games that came out that are
Absolutely,
really
we're in
great.
kind of like the golden age of miniature gaming.
Yeah.
And and it's funny, as much as GW drops the ball, it leads to other people having business opportunity.
Right.
One of the things I was talking about recently with Antoine was Ronnie Renton, the man who owns Mantic, has said that they're going to release an army book for Kings of War 2nd Edition that's going to contain army lists for armies they don't have.
Hmm.
And they look, historical and other fantasy type armies that you may have models for, wink wink nudge nudge.
Right.
So, even if if people still want a ranked up game, and let's say the next edition of Warhammer is not a ranked up, infantry game, well, you can move on to Kings of War, and they'll gladly take your money in the future, and they'll give you rules you can use, and so it's all, there's always opportunity, and there's so many other companies now. We're really kind of like in the golden age.
As long as you want to play a skirmish game, if you want to play a big ranked battle, it's a little bit harder. But
Yeah, there's only a couple games that do that.
Right.
And then that's why I like the look of a table that's filled with models.
I just like. I mean, look at anything I make. Most of the armies that I do on commission are like 10,000 points. The displays I make are 8 feet tall. I just like big, huge things. There's a certain aspect of. There's a certain something that something huge has that, when broken down to its smallest parts, is not as impressive. It's more than the sum of its parts, and that's one thing I like about Warhammer. Is you can have a table that's 8 foot long that is jam packed with little 5-point Empire guys. Empire is my favorite army. You can just have it packed, and there's something awesome about that you don't get from a skirmish game of 20 Empire guys. Although Mordheim is an amazing game that I miss,
But it was different.
there's something to that.
It had a different
right.
feel.
Yeah, that's a different thing. It's for a different purpose, but that is something of itself that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely.
The big games.
I love the feel of the big games of Fantasy and 40K. And the rules aren't super tight. But it doesn't matter if you're playing in the right environment. I
don't think they're really intended to be a tournament game.
No, and GW said as much, right?
Right. Even though I'm fully supportive and I love playing in tournaments.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. And if
but you know what's funny about one thing I love about the fantasy side of like Adepticon, the fantasy side, even though it is a tournament, you still feel like it's just a bunch of guys hanging out and playing games. I think that's what I really like about fantasy.
Yeah, I played the team tournament with Steve, and we got walloped really badly, but we had a blast doing it. Well, I had a blast.
Fun.
Steve maybe didn't have as much fun as I did losing, but
Steve's a win at all costs kind of guy.
No, not at all. Our list was totally
Steve.
not optimized, but just I was having crappy dice rolls. Like at first game, I rolled so bad that the opponents, and I can't remember the name, they actually came over and gave me a hug in the middle of the game because I was dying. Everything was dying. I couldn't hit anything. Steve was like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, "I don't know, man."
That's funny.
Yeah, it was bad.
I can't see him not smiling though. That's the problem.
No. He was smiling the whole time. Our third game, he wasn't smiling so much. That wasn't really because we were losing. It was because our opponents were difficult, argumentative, and just not really paying attention to the game. And
that's no fun.
yeah, it was, they started off the game they were losing pretty badly at one point, and so one of the two kind of lost interest and was like playing on his phone, not really paying attention to what was going on, and kind of giving us attitude every time we did something. Like, okay, I cast, oh my god, what's it called? What's the Lore of Metal, the big spell, number 6? Final Trans?
I can see, yes.
Yeah. So I cast Final Trans on a unit, and he's like, okay, whatever. Okay. He's like, what does that do again? I'm like, okay. So I tell him, yeah, whatever. Just roll it. And he's like looking at his phone, not caring. Okay.
It's kind of, you need to, even if you're losing or I don't know, you need to step up and.
Yeah, well, it's supposed to be a game, right? And then we started losing because we had a bunch of bad rolls in a row, and the game flipped on us. And then all of a sudden, he was super perky.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys.
Yeah. So that was kind of rough. But on the whole, Steve takes everything with a smile. That's.
Oh.
Yeah. So let's get back to you, because as much fun as Steve and I playing games is.
That's fine. It's fun to talk about. I only see you guys once a year, so.
That's true. And maybe next year we'll actually get to play a game against you or something if you're going to be back playing.
Yeah.
So, GMM.
So what's next?
Yeah, so we're kind of all over the place. So I'm just trying to go through my notes and see if there's any way to salvage the order, and there isn't. So we're just going to pick something at random.
Sure.
So how much time? Like, do you actually know how much time you spent on the Golden Throne?
No, but it was about 5 or 6 weeks of every waking moment that I was not eating or had to get out of the house. So I mean, it was at least like 300 hours, 400 hours.
Oh, jeez,
it's a lot.
That is a lot of time. I mean, it shows too.
And what's hard is that I look back. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you can tell just by looking at the detail work, right? That it's there. That you can see those hours there, but it's still a lot of time.
Yeah. And I'd spend so much time really just sitting there staring at it, trying to figure out what to do. There would be no problem to be out there late at night. That's one thing I love about it. I love to be out late at night. I'll put a podcast on or some music on, have a couple drinks, and then I'm just working until like 6 in the morning. I know that sounds like we were talking about earlier, to some people that might sound crazy, but to me that is like my ideal work situation. That's where I get the most creative stuff out. But I would just sit there for 2 hours and just sit there and look at it. And okay, well, what does this look like? Hold this part up there. And so there's a lot of hours that aren't actually doing anything, but just thinking. Because when you compact it into that short of time, you have to use every moment to sort of plan and think, and
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's the
you don't get to step away.
You're not doing it over a course of a year, right? You're trying to fit it into 5
Right.
weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's...
I plan it and I think about it over the year, but I have to build it because I can't financially afford to stop work and build on it, and I also can't handle that. Like I said before, I'm obsessive. I got to work on one thing at a time.
Yeah,
and,
you can't do the multiple project thing.
Right. I would go out there and I would put the legs on the throne, and I would go back in and work on an army, and 2 weeks later, when I'm done with that army, I think, okay, well, I guess I could go out and do something else to it. I don't know, that's just how I manage my time. But yeah, that's so about maybe 300 or 400 hours if I had to guess. But I don't keep track. Even on my armies, I don't keep track of hours at all.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the armies actually. So, GMM Studios.
Mm-hmm.
That's your company. You're alone in this? Do you have a partner? Do you have...
No, it's just, I mean, the funny thing is when I started, it was like 8 years ago. And I called it GMM Studios because I thought I wanted to be Blue Table.
Right.
I wanted to be the guy in charge and have a lot of people painting for me. And then I realized over time, that's not what I wanted at all. I like working alone. I like peace and quiet. I like sitting down for 8 hours and nobody bothers me and I get a lot done. But I kept the name because ever since when I first started, I was working at school and a school and at home. And I graduated college and I was working from a shop and at home. I was always working from more than one place. So the name stuck and I kept it, even though I know most people think that I'm 5 or 6 people. No, I'm just a guy in a spare bedroom that's pirate themed and I paint models.
Hold on, did you say the spare bedroom's pirate themed?
Yeah, I got a little bitty spare bedroom that has the wood paneling and it's all decked out with some paintings, and I'll have to send you some pictures. It's pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of my little paint room.
That's
It's
awesome.
pretty cool. But yeah, I just sit in here and paint models. I've had people come out to pick their models up that live local or drive in, and I know they always assume I've got like some big garage and some big space that I work in, but no, it's just my house and a spare bedroom. But it's actually kind of nice, and it allows me to be more flexible and when I talk to people, when I can work, and the more flexible I am personally when I can work, the better my work is. So it's better than if I were to rent a space or buy a space outside of the house and had to drive somewhere. Because I did that at one point, and I was not as efficient.
When you started, you did that, didn't you?
Right, yeah, and I wasn't as efficient. Even though you would think that sounds more professional, I was not more professional in how I used my time. I don't know why. It's just my personality.
And plus, there's an extra overhead there. You're paying rent in a place, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's definitely true. But that's just how I like to do things, and how I get the most done. So that's how I do them.
So, what does GMM stand for?
Gray Matter Musings, and that goes way back to like my college years. I thought of that for another project, but that project never worked out. It was some silly comic thing, and so I just put it onto this, and it always stuck. I've always liked Dexter's Lab. That's where you see a lot of the way I paint and my logo, and there's a lot of in the language that I use on the site. There's a lot of Dexter's Laboratory that's gone back, I don't know, 10 years. I'm a huge fan of that style of cartoon. So that's what that comes from.
Well, Dexter's Lab was an awesome cartoon, so
It was
can't blame you.
Gennady Tartakovsky. I can't remember pronounce his name, but all of his cartoons are really good. I'll even watch Powerpuff Girls. I don't care.
Oh, Powerpuff Girls is entertaining.
It was awesome.
Super entertaining. Used to watch that all the time. All
It
right,
was.
so army painting. So 11 months of the year, you're painting armies.
Mm-hmm.
And you say your average army size you paint is like 10,000 points?
Anything from, like, I have a minimum to what I can paint, mostly because of organization. I mean, if you can imagine, I have about a year backlog of armies, trying to keep track of, if I broke those down in individual models and customers, that'd be really hard to keep track of. So I do have about 2,000 points as a minimum. And then it goes up. Some of my biggest armies are 500 Space Marines and 40 tanks, something in that range.
Jesus. Okay.
So anything in between.
So how do you like? Obviously you don't suffer from this, but if I paint, and I paint a lot. I'm an army painter. That's just what I do. I don't do a lot of display pieces. It's a lot of good tabletop quality, but just I mass produce.
Mm-hmm.
And even I eventually I need a break because I start getting the hobby burnout because I've just painted too much. I've done too many little bonums, and I've got to walk away.
Right.
How do you keep your sanity? If you got a
That's
year
one thing
backlog,
I've.
at 10,000, and every customer's got between 2,000 to 10,000 points or whatever. That's a lot of models in front of you, right?
Yeah.
And then
That's
the month you take off, you spend every waking moment working on another model.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I've learned from the past 6 months or so. I've had people ask me to, mostly Adepticon, they say, why don't you teach classes? And they say, well, you could teach how you paint and all these other things. And I've had other tournaments and places ask me to teach classes. I do have the army painting, the basics of how I paint. Yes, I can teach that. But what makes me special as a painter, you can't teach because I'm basically just broken. I don't burn out. I can paint 16 hours a day for 2 months, and I will ask you for another day of 16 hours, or I'll go crazy. I'm the opposite. I just have to have that all the time, and that's what makes me special as a painter. As really, it's what it boils down to. I don't know why, and I
Sorry,
I don't know.
Skype dropped you for a second there.
Oh yeah, I see that. Where did it drop me? And I'll pick back up. Just start over again.
I think you're just saying that's what makes you special as a painter.
Right. That's what makes me special as a painter, as a commissioned painter, as a hobbyist. Is I've never told anyone. I would never say that I'm the best painter. I'm definitely not. But what makes me special is the amount that I paint, the time I paint it in. But that's mostly just because I'm painting like crazy. And the size of the armies that I paint to the quality that I paint them, I'm not bragging, but that would drive most people crazy to paint 20,000 points, and I do it all at once.
Yeah, that's what's
if
insane.
If I'm painting 500 Space Marines, I dot all their eyes, and if it takes 2 days, I just sit there for 2 days and dot their eyes. And it sounds so crazy when I say it, but I love it, so that's why I do it.
You know what? If you can do something in life that you love,
oh yeah,
your life is going to be better because of it, right? So
right. I was talking to somebody and trying to explain that to them. Explain painting like it was an older guy that has no idea what this is. I explained it to him the other day, and we were talking about money and things like that. And I said, and I've said it for a long time, that it would take at least 3 or 4 times what I make, which is not a lot, in order for me to do something I don't like but take the money. Just because, and it's so easy to take for granted because I'm working so hard all the time. But if I stop and think about it, I use an alarm at Adepticon. That is the one time a year I use an alarm, is when I go to Adepticon. That alone is worth doing what I do. Because, I used to work in normal jobs for a little bit, and I went to school and all these, everything else. And
you're trained as a industrial designer or graphic designer?
Graphic designer. I went to school for graphic design. But, I used an alarm in my life enough to know that I hate them. And that's something I should be very grateful for, is that I don't have to use one. But it also takes a good deal of discipline. I'm only able to make it because I have that discipline that I don't want to stop. If I was, a type of person that didn't want to work and I had to force myself, I would just sit and watch TV all day. And because it is right in the other room, it's right here in front of where I paint. I can just flip over to some forum or something and sit there and read. I can go over to the replica forum and flip through it, and I'll catch myself doing that for 10 minutes or so. But then I realize, I'm working. I need to stop. I could say that for some other time. Save my reading for when I'm falling asleep.
Yeah, I was self-employed for a while, for a number of years actually, and one of the things, I like the flexibility of the schedule, but in order to make it work, you have to be able to go, okay, if I'm slacking off right now, that just means I'm going to have to work
You just got to do
twice
it
as
later.
hard later, right?
Right.
I gotta put in those hours. If I'm not doing it now, it's just gotta be later.
And you don't want to cram because then you will enjoy it less.
Yeah,
Like there's
exactly.
a certain. That's the only time where it gets so nuts that I think if I couldn't do that forever. Like there's always a week before Adepticon that is so nuts that I couldn't do that all year. My hair would fall out. Like that charity army and their team army, I got that. I got the models in the mail a week before Adepticon, and that's 3,000 points. And I painted 16 hours a day for a week, and I liked that. But on day 8, I would have been like, okay, I need to trim it back to about 12.
Yeah.
So, there is, anything in life you can go too hard at it.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's an insane schedule. 16 hours a day of painting.
Yeah.
My
There was one
my
point
hand is
where
cramping thinking about it, Brandon.
have you ever heard of Twitch TV?
Of course.
You ever watch Awesome Games Done Quick?
Yes.
Oh my god, okay. When Awesome Games Done Quick and Summer Games Done Quick are on, those are the 2 most productive weeks of the year. I will pull 2 or 3 all-nighters easy.
Because you're just watching that all night.
Right. There was an army back in January. I was like, okay. I was super. There was something going on, and I was working on this army, and I actually somehow forgot, or I thought that maybe Awesome Games Done Quick was a week later, but it comes out, and I think, oh crap, I can get a lot done, and I'm sitting there watching it and watching it. I end up painting for like 36 hours straight, working and finishing up this army that otherwise, it's just building time into getting to work on the throne, basically. But I have all right, I lost my train. You'll have to cut all this out again. I lost my train of thought again.
That's okay.
Just cut this part out too. Right at the
It's
time.
not a big deal. It's not like you're lost for like 10 minutes trying to figure out where you're going, right?
Right.
Yeah, so you can get a lot done when you've got that.
Yeah.
The awesome game.
It was basically my excitement of Awesome Games Done Quick, and I mean, it's just that's the thing. I get a lot done. That's all there was. There really didn't need to be any more explanation than that. So
36-hour painting session. Jeebus.
Yeah. But I enjoyed that. I mean, obviously I had to go to sleep. I was seeing things. But I like that. That was fun. It's like 36 hours.
I get the impression that's what's happened to James Waffle. Is that
the more I get to know him, we are very similar in how we live. He's just very lucky, and he's found a woman that correlates with that very well.
Yeah, no, for sure. He is so fun.
Right. He's a very nice guy.
I was talking with, I don't know if you know, yeah, you must know Elizabeth Beckley.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I was talking to Elizabeth Beckley yesterday afternoon, and we were talking about James, and I called him the Bob Ross of mini war painting, miniature painting, and she laughed. She's like, "Did you tell him that?" I'm like, "No." She said, "Oh, I have to tell him that right now. He'll love it." Okay.
Yeah, he's a very nice guy. He's very laid back and calm. They're both very calm.
Well, he's calm except for when he isn't. Because sometimes
I've never seen him not calm.
No, he doesn't get like, I'm not talking angry or something, but he gets excited.
Oh, he gets in a flurry,
and he gets kind of like intense.
Yeah,
it's a funny, crazy kind of intense.
He's the type of person that's just so nice and so relaxed. Can I just buy you a coffee or something? Can I do something for you? You're that nice of a person. Your aura is that positive that I just want to do something for you right now.
Yeah, I'm actually going to Reapercon at the end of the month, and he's one of the people I'm looking forward to spending some time with and chatting with.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I got to be friends with Jessica Rich at Adepticon, and we were talking, and her and Rhonda Bender were having a drink with me, and they're like, "Oh, you need to come to Reapercon." I'm like, "Well, when's Reapercon?" They're like, "At the end of the month." I'm like, "Well, I can't go at the end of the month. Like, I've got a house, a job, a baby. Like, it's no way. So maybe next year." So then I'm kind of talking with another buddy, and I'm looking at the Reapercon website. I'm like, wait a minute, that's in Texas at the beginning of May. I'm like, I think I have to go to Texas for work at the beginning of May.
Oh, awesome.
So I double checked, and I fly into Texas on the Monday for work. But Reapercon's the weekend before, and 15 minutes away. So I'm just going to leave a few days early, fly into Texas like on the Friday instead of the Monday, go to Reapercon over the weekend, and then go for my work stuff the next week.
Awesome.
So it all just kind of lined up.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, I was talking to Jim about it. I'm like, yeah, I want to. Can you bring me some of your videos? I'll just pay when I get there, or whatever, and and we can talk. And I'd love to learn more about the shaded base coat and just his techniques. I'm one of those guys. I can't paint. Yeah, I'm not a high level painter, and I can't necessarily duplicate techniques because I don't have any artistic talent or very little. But I like to learn about them because I find it
Right.
interesting. And I find it interesting people's thought processes on how they paint.
Well, that goes back to like what I was talking about, the replica form. I don't make replica props, but I listen to an arcade podcast. I don't even play in arcades. I like to listen to people be passionate about what they're doing, and I know enough about arcades, and I like those personalities enough that I watch them. It's
Yeah,
the same
exactly.
thing.
Same type of idea, right? You know, I in my group of friends, a bunch of really high level painters. Like Antoine paints amazing. Yom, who you met at the at Adepticon, and did a bunch of stuff with Crystal Brush. Some of it made the first cut. You know, so that's an achievement. You know, it's not everyone gets to make first cut at Crystal Brush.
Right.
You know, especially nowadays where the level gets higher and higher every year.
Yeah.
So you know, and I like talking to them about painting because they see things in a way I don't, and I like talking to people like Jessica Rich and James Wapple because everyone has a different technique,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone sees it a little bit differently.
Right.
Everyone has their specialties, and what's
Yeah,
funny is how
yeah.
they see each other. Like listening to other artists talk about James Wapple is hilarious because it's like they're talking about some sort of weird voodoo magic master because they don't really understand his technique or why it works for him, but they know it does.
Right.
You know, and it's hilarious.
No, he's definitely. And I like the way I've haven't always painted. The way I paint has changed a lot over the years, but the way I paint anymore, I've slowly realized is obviously not as good. But it's a lot like how he paints. It's very broad and a lot of character when you paint broadly, but then you come back in and you tighten it up.
Yep.
And that's how I prefer to paint. I'm not the type of person that paints the entire model with a number one. I save the number one for the very end, and he does that as well. I don't think he uses the number one all the time, but it's for the end stuff. But sometimes he probably
his
doesn't at
starter
all.
brush
But
is like a number 8 round
Right,
from like Hobby
yeah.
Lobby or whatever.
yeah, and there's a point where you paint so much. When you paint, hours a day for years, like I can feel in the brush when it's full of paint and full of water, and I can sort of mix it on the fly. When I know that a person that's just starting is like, oh my god, there's some red on there, and I got to be very careful. And it's just a matter. So much of it is experience that you just can't
Absolutely.
teach. You just got to
You gotta do
encourage people to keep going and grind through. That's a lot of it. You just can't even teach it.
Yeah, and like anything, it's practice,
Yeah,
right? No one wakes up one day and says, "Oh, I'm going to be Matthew Fontaine or I'm going to be Jessica Rich," right? Like
right.
it just doesn't happen. These people, took years to get where they are.
Right.
You look at I was looking at some of Jessica Rich's early stuff when she won like Golden Demons, and it looks nothing. 10 years ago, it looked nothing like what she's painting now.
Right.
Everyone evolves, everyone changes, and and everyone grows. And just like you said, like your painting now has evolved. You're no longer painting the same way you were when you started.
Right.
And I'm sure the speed is faster. I'm sure the painting is better.
Oh yeah.
Right.
That's just part of it. You get faster and better in anything. It could be painting models or fixing cars. It doesn't matter. It's just life.
Yep, that's actually a good analogy. I like that. Painting models or fixing cars. It's true. Okay, so do you have any... I mean, obviously you have a system, you have a way that works for you. Do you have any advice you would give to, that average Joe who wants to paint a 10,000 point army? Like a kind of strategy on how to approach it?
I think that even if I were a normal person just painting an army with kids and a day job, I would still do it all at once. I can't even imagine anymore. I see people do it, but painting an army unit by unit, it's like nails on a chalkboard when I think about that anymore. I would say maybe do that, but in terms of broad advice for making a giant army, it's hard because I understand that most normal people only get an hour or two, if that, a day to paint. So in that regard, I don't know. But in terms of painting, I will go back and say that I was talking to some guy on Facebook that sent me a message asking for advice the other day on Facebook, and I said, the biggest thing is apprehension. If you're afraid to put your paint on your model, you're not going to. And I'm sorry, this is the third time I've done this to you today.
You lost your train again?
Yeah. I don't know why.
Okay, but basically the point you were saying is that getting over the apprehension is the first step, right? It's you just got to sit down and do it.
Yeah, I guess.
No, it's totally not what you were going for. But okay. I think I might leave these parts in just because they're hilarious to listen to.
I sound like an idiot.
No, you sound like a human being who's not, not being coached. It's all good. Okay, so I think the last thing I wanted to talk to you about. So you've produced some DVDs with Simon.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got, I think it's 7-Day Army.
Yeah, I've got that one and a terrain one, and they're basically 3 to 4 hours of the basics of how to paint and the basics of how to make terrain, each one. The painting one is a lot about airbrushing, just getting started, how to paint large amounts of models quickly, and then the terrain is basics, display boards, fantasy terrain for this one, not sci-fi. I'd like to do a sci-fi one later, but gist of it, basics of terrain if you know nothing, basics of painting if you know nothing. So those would be good to pick up if you're in that state of your hobby.
Okay. And you say it's the painting one's a lot about airbrushing, so I guess it's a good intro to like learning how to airbrush, learning how to thin the paint, what consistency you need for paint.
Not so much those. There is some of that, but a lot more of doing the airbrushing and then what you do with it after.
Right.
Finishing the army. Because I did that one in 2011, so it's a good few years ago, and since then, even more so now, I use the airbrush to where the diminishing returns start to fall off, and you need to do a lot with the paintbrush in order to not see the airbrush. Because it's a good tool to speed up the initial process, but if you take it too far, you can start to see the airbrush, and to me, that bothers me when I look at something and I see how it was painted in a way that doesn't add character to it. Like if you look at Wapple's painting, you can see in some places how he painted it.
Yeah.
You can see brush strokes, but it adds character. Airbrushing can be the reverse of that, where if you airbrush the entire model and you don't do anything else to it, you take it to the extreme.
It looks cheapened almost.
Well, it's not so much cheapened because you can do a really good job. I've seen some amazing Titans and things that have been painted with an airbrush. It's so uniform that it lacks any character. It doesn't have any soul to it.
We're going to you're talking like from an artistic point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying you're looking at it through the eyes of an artist.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not necessarily, if you just want the best Titan that you can make or whatever model in the fastest time that you can, and you just want to use the airbrush, there's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and it will look amazing. I'm saying for me, when I paint armies anymore, I try and go back in a lot afterwards and add a lot more in the way I paint to add character to it. Like I said, the way Wapple paints, you can see how he's done some things, but it is in a way that adds to it rather than subtract. So it's basically the fine detail, the end work. Whereas if you're not, like you said, if you're not worried about that, then you don't worry about it. For lack of a better way to explain that.
And how did the DVDs happen? Like, someone from Simon approached you and said, hey...
Yeah, they just asked me to make some.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. They're fun to do. I'd like to do some more. They're just I'd like to do a sci-fi one and then a painting one about maybe just a different set of models, but they're crazy busy with their Kickstarters and stuff, so I don't bother them too much. They've got like 20 Kickstarters and games and books and things. I still keep in touch with them, but like all their crews, Elizabeth, and I don't know if you know Spencer, but
no, I don't know Spencer.
Okay, I keep in close contact with them, and I usually go to Cool Minicon every year. That's a cool. If you're around Atlanta, you should check out.
It's actually on my birthday this year. It's my 40th.
Oh.
So I was like, I wonder if I could get the wife to let me. Yeah, don't think it's gonna happen. But
It's pretty fun. It's not very big because it's only the last year was only the second year, but there's there's something special about going to a con that's the size that it was. It's very I don't know the word personal, but there's something special about it that I liked, that I enjoyed, but it's supposed to be a lot bigger this year too. So
That's a Simon Expo, right?
right, it's sort of the opposite of what happened with Adepticon this year, where it's not necessarily negative, but the changing of the venue made it feel more like a Gen Con than
Yeah.
a giant bar where people play Warhammer, which is basically what it was before.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking about trying to do like Wapaka or something next year, because I've heard that's kind of like the feel there.
Wapaka is just crazy. I've not been, and I had signed up this year, but I just couldn't make it and make everything, and I also had financial stuff that I won't go into to be able to make the throne and everything. But I had to cancel that. But it's an awesome tournament from what I've seen. It's like insane in every way. Probably not possible to explain it. You just need to see pictures and hear stories.
Need to experience it.
Right. It's one of those where stuff stays there.
What happens at Wapaka stays at Wapaka.
Right. But I didn't want to be cliche or anything. Jeez.
Oh, that's okay. I'll be cliche for you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. I'll take one for the team. All right, man. Anything else you'd like to discuss?
Nope. We covered quite a bit.
We did. We kind of been rambling for the last hour, so I think we did a pretty good job.
Just back from the convention, I came up with a really good analogy. Just not, I didn't even plan it, but I'm really proud of it. I want to share it. For me, going to Adepticon and doing Adepticon is like you're going 75 miles an hour down the highway. You suddenly pull over, take everything out of the car, make a sandwich, eat it, throw everything back in the car, go off, and then when I'm back to where I am now, it's like, okay, the cruise control's back on. That feeling of like, okay, you're back on the road.
Yeah, I totally get that.
When you're on a road trip. That's what it's like right now. And it takes like a week because I let the house go, got to clean the garage out. I don't know did you see the picture of the garage that I actually put one picture of the mess. Did you see that?
No, was that on your Twitter?
Yeah, it was mixed in pictures somewhere. You can find it on Facebook if you look at the work in progress gallery. But there is a point at the end where you're basically walking on 3 or 4 inches of stuff.
Oh my god.
Because it's just, you got to throw it because there's no, I fill the trash can up with junk and there's no point to being organized. It would take too long if I was more organized than that. So that's the irony of making all this stuff and I didn't get hurt. But then I go to Adepticon and I get my face cut. I didn't trip and fall or cut myself or anything.
Oh my god. Yes, there is a shot of the garage. I see what you're talking about now.
Yeah. And you can go back and find a clean shot if you go through that same gallery. And it's pretty night and day. I scrubbed it like last September or something in preparation. Every year I gut it and clean it out and then make a huge mess again. And I actually building the thing, I don't know if you've ever been to Menards or Lowe's and bought a giant pack of razor blades. You can buy them in 100 if you go to the right places for like $6. But what matters is I've lost almost 2 packs of those in a 10-foot by 10-foot garage. Because I would take the wrapper off when I cut a few things. I would set it down, and then there's so much junk to take in. If I look down for something, I'm just like, okay, that's lost. I got to get another one. And in the end of that month, I had been through almost 200 razor blades. And if I go out there, once I go out there and clean, I'm sure I'll find them all again. I'll have a nice stack of razor blades again.
Hopefully you don't find them like with your feet.
Right. That's the amazing thing is that I didn't step on any. So.
Yeah, it's just looking at these. For the listeners, they really need to go out like GMM Studios on Facebook and start going through those photos. Like, it is amazing. To see where it's all coming from. Because I didn't see any of the work in progress photos, right? So I just saw the end result. So now I'm looking at these work in progress photos, and it is crazy.
This is the first one. I had a lot of people say it at the convention. This is the first one where, at the very beginning, there was so much distance between the beginning and the end that people thought I was crazy when they thought this is going to be crap. when they saw the first pictures, and you can see it on there. It's just a mannequin.
Yeah, in a wooden frame.
Sitting super creepily in that frame, and it looks horrible. It looks so bad. But I knew where it was going to go, but nobody else did. But I think that's a testament to the scope is getting nice and large when nobody but myself can see where it's going. The others you can kind of see, like the Fantasy Throne skeleton in the chair. Okay, I know the gist of this. But with this one, it was like, okay, I have no idea what this.
Yeah,
in a sense,
early mannequin shot, you're like, what?
It's really
the
weird.
hell is he thinking? Yeah, because it's really disturbing looking.
And I had to stare. I had to stare at that thing the whole time. And the crotch city, that was kind of awkward to make because I was down in the mannequin, like putting little towers and things. I was like, okay, I hope my neighbors can't see through the window.
Phallic much?
This is kind of awkward positioning.
Yeah, it's weird, and the mannequin is super creepy looking. And then I don't know. I think when you start putting on, if you start sculpting on the head and stuff, it actually gets more creepy looking.
Yeah, there's like a midway of Uncanny Valley where it gets worse and then it gets better.
Yeah, I'm looking at the one where Waldo's sitting on his head.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. That's the other thing people need to know is that in every work in progress shot, there's a where's Waldo Space Marine.
Now, not every, maybe. You gotta look. You might have to look really hard.
Well, he's in most of them. let's be honest. He's in a lot of them.
Yeah. But yeah, he's for scale, and he's also in a couple of the end pictures. If you look hard enough, he's in a couple of them.
I just remember how long Elizabeth and I stood there looking at this damn thing, going, "Where's Waldo? He's got to be in here somewhere." I'm like, "Are you sure he's in here?" She's like, "Yeah, Brandon DeWitt is in here." And then I saw you later on. You're like, "Oh no, I'd taken him up by that point."
Oh yeah,
I
took him out to move it. I took it out to move
30
it. 30
minutes staring at this thing, looking for Waldo and not finding him.
He was in there all weekend until we moved. We had to move him out to the hallway to get. They got 10 bonus points if I did all that. So, that's not easy moving that thing. So I hope they're grateful. But I figured I'd get him points and move it out there. But I took the Waldo out because it had to sit without the case for a little bit. I didn't want to leave him on there. He's been through some stuff. Waldo needs repainted. He's seen some stuff. He got oversprayed working on. At one point, there's a picture of it where it's all primered and wet. He was sitting on top when I started that. I didn't realize it, and he got oversprayed and he got beat up at Adepticon. He needs repainted. But that's all he's really for, is just to take pictures so I can leave his arm off, I guess.
Oh come on, he served you so well. You can't leave him that way.
Well, I'd like to make an army of them at some point, but yeah, I got so much going on.
Oh, maybe if you ever aren't a year backlogged, right?
Well, let's hope. I don't mind that myself, but yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to know you've got that coming in, right?
Yeah. It's not that's not really so bad in the grand scheme of things because, like the other day, I started talking to somebody that wants a 10,000 point army, and every guy is like 5 different bits. I was okay. We need to sit down and talk about every single unit and figure out what every single model is going to have on it, and that could easily take a few months. So, and then time to get everything in. A year is really not that bad.
No, for sure. I can't. Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine the cost of having someone professionally paint a 10,000 point army.
I mean, it's not. There's so many hours. I am by far the cheapest for
the amount
quality.
of time you put in, for sure.
And I know I'm not even bragging. I can say that because I know how the others paint their armies, and I don't even keep track, and I just do it because I like it. And I mean, I'll spend all day taking pictures and making those silly pictures that I take, and I don't get paid extra for that. I just enjoy it. As long as I can pay the bills, this is what I'll do, just because it's fun. But there are definitely more expensive people, but then you're talking not so much big armies. You're talking like Wapple.
Yeah, small units or
skirmish,
characters.
More skirmish-sized stuff and higher quality. But yeah, I do my best. I try.
Sorry, I'm looking at something from Adepticon, I think, and I see a DeLorean on the table.
Oh yeah, that was Drunkhammer. It's basically 5 of us from Geek Nation Tours, and we get drunk and play a game where there's not really any rules. You make them up as you go. It's kind of honor system, and you have a 250 point army list, and then you make your army up. Originally, this was before I was even part of it. Originally, you had to buy stuff at the convention to play with, and you had like 30 minutes to throw it together and play with it. And then it became, okay, you have a theme, and you have to make it out of stuff that's not necessarily Warhammer. And so mine was 5 speeders, and I had an 80s theme. And so I took 5 cars from famous 80s movies. There's the Ghostbusters car, the DeLorean, Dukes of Hazzard.
I was gonna say, I saw General Lee somewhere, didn't I?
Yeah, General Lee's in there. There's Knight Rider, and then Smokey.
Yeah, Smoking the Bandit, I see it.
If you look in there too, you'll see a giant Lego contraption.
Okay.
Can you see that?
I haven't seen a photo with that yet.
Okay. If you see it, that's a giant sort of skimmer with DC heroes on it.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, that is one 250 point Space Marine character, and each one of those represents his special abilities that he paid for, and you could actually shoot them off. And his wounds were Legos, so as he would take wounds, he would start ripping Legos off of it. But we really only got to like the 3rd turn because we started at 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was like 5 in the morning. We were all very drunk, and first turn, of course, the DeLorean goes forward in time, and he goes in my pocket, and so then this is the last turn. Well, DeLorean comes back in time, forward in time, for this trip, and
well done, sir.
So I figured that was a nice story. Otherwise I would have felt like I was cheating, but it felt like a good way to end the story of the game.
That's awesome. Oh man, Adventures at Adepticon.
Yeah, that's why I had to kind of hesitated earlier about not playing in anything. I did play in one game. I did play Drunkhammer.
Well, it sounds like you enjoyed it, and I agree. The DeLorean is a cool story where it disappears on turn 1 and shows up on the last turn.
Well, somebody corrected me. I didn't play it right. I should have had one turn where he gets up to 88 miles per hour. But
he's accelerating this turn.
Right. I should have had one turn for that, but it was fun.
We'll forgive you this time.
Okay.
All right, man. You know what? I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Sounds good.
I really want to thank you for being on the show. This was awesome. It was super cool to finally get to talk to you. And, if you're ever bored, just let me know. We'll get you on with all the guys. We'll do,
sure.
We'll do something.
Sure. It'll be fun. I'm just sitting here painting. I'll be on.
Awesome, man. Cool. Okay.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Brandon. It was a blast. I'll talk to you soon, okay, man?
You too.
Take care.
Back, and that was our Brandon Palmer interview. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think that's just about it for this week. Guys, any shoutouts? Antoine, you?
Yes, I have a little something. The guys from the Secret Cabal Gaming podcast are running a charity auction right now. One of the host's cousin's daughter has been diagnosed with leukemia, and they're having a charity an auction to raise funds to help with the treatments. I'm taking part in it. I've offered a displayable painting piece. So anybody who want to bid on that, choose a miniature. Once the winner will choose a miniature, send it my way, and I'll paint and ship it back freely. So well, not freely. They paid for it, but I'll paint anything they send me. And I'm taking part of it. And there's a bunch of other interesting stuff. They have their a growler, a beer growler, and a special paint glass, a bunch of board games, new or out of print that you can't get anymore, or just giant lots of 10 or 15 games. So if anybody want to help and maybe get a game or a paint job at the same time, just go to winningcause.org/the secret cabal. So I'll put the link in the show notes so you can find it. It's running until May 29th. So the show, if you're not listening to the show when it comes out, it will be probably too late. But at least you can go and see if anything else can be done. They'll probably add other info on the site to help after that. So that's it.
Yeah, and it's for a good cause, folks. So be generous. And I think that's it. Yo, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I'd like to thank Gazgil for killing Calgar, and no, I don't have anything.
Wow, jeez, thanks, Yom. Thanks, I'll remember that. I'm
Sure
gonna
you
poison
will.
your food next year. Little X-lax in your pulled pork will make the game a lot more interesting.
Uh-huh. Or you eat cat food. Here, enjoy.
All right. And on that note, guys, I guess that's it. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Bye, geeks.
Thanks for listening to Geeks of the North. If you want to contact us, you can email us at geeksofthenorth@gmail.com. Read our blog at geeksofthenorth.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/geeksofthenorth, or follow us on Twitter at Geeks of the North. You can follow me, Paul, on Twitter at PRFilio, and Antoine at ElTonioBerg. See you in 2 weeks, geeks.
Thank you for checking out a United Geeks Network family member. If you enjoyed it and are looking for other online media with a geek culture slant, head over to UnitedGeeksNetwork.com, where you will find Royal Monster Battalion, a podcast where two geeks share their love of monster movies and have a few laughs along the way. The United Geeks Network. You can broadcast your geekiness at UnitedGeeksNetwork.com. Work.com. 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 Work.